Moreland, Keisha Shawn Waits, Jason Winston, Amir Faroki, Byron Amos, Jason Dozier, Liliana Bakhtiari, Alex Wan, Howard Shook, Mary Norwood, Dustin Hillis, Andrea Boone, Marcy Collier Overstreet, Antonio Lewis.
Let's go.
Quorum present, sir.
Thank you. Before we move to the adoption of the agenda, I would just like to remind my colleagues that the ballots for the Budget Commission will be distributed. Those can be returned to the clerk's desk. We would ask that you return those by the end of public comment so that they can be tabulated ahead of the Committee on Council report. So I believe have those already been distributed, Madam Clerk? They're being distributed right now. They are on paper, so if you could fill those out and return them to the clerk's desk, that would be appreciated. Next is the adoption of the agenda. The agenda has been circulated. I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda by Councilmember Lewis, seconded by Councilmember Overstreet. Any discussion on the adoption of the agenda? Hearing none, we can do this via unanimous consent. Is there any objection to the motion to adopt the agenda? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please sound the count on unanimous consent for the motion to adopt.
Unanimous consent is 11 yeas, 0 nays.
11 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to adopt the agenda carries. Next, we'll move to our invocation. It is my pleasure to welcome with us today Reverend Walter Mobley, Jr., Reverend of Victory Baptist Church of Atlanta, to provide our invocation. Thank you for being here.
Let us pray. The Spirit of God who knows us all, who gives us life and who's blessed us more abundantly than we can imagine. Almighty God, you have saw fit to bring your servants here to serve your people. We pray for our council president. We pray for our council members. We pray for the mayor of this great city. We pray your blessings upon every city employee. Thank you for their service. Thank you for their sacrifice. Thank you for what you do for the people of the city of Atlanta. Bless now these, your people. Help us to recognize that we are here to serve this present age. Thank you again for all that you do in the name of the Christ I believe in. Amen.
Would you please, in the spirit of the moment, I would ask if any of my colleagues have any recognitions before we take a moment. Councilmember Wan.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, I'd like us to lift the family and friends of Amy St. Pierre, who was a Virginia Highland resident who lost her life in the gun violence that happened in Midtown last week. She was very engaged and really exemplified kind of how we should all go about being involved and pay attention to what's happening in our city and voice our positions and trying to advocate for those. So please keep them in your thoughts and prayers.
Councilmember Westmoreland.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to lift up the name of Daniel Austin Minor II, who was a former student of mine at Carver, class of 2015, was a Gates Millennium Scholar who enrolled at Georgia Tech and passed away last week after a really long and difficult illness, and want his name to be called and remembered for the record.
Thank you. Councilmember Boone.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I would like to offer condolences to Miss Sunshine Lewis and Bishop John Lewis, who lost their sister, Apostle Colette Gumby, who was a wonderful, wonderful spiritual leader in the DeKalb County area. Apostle Colette Gumby. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Amos.
Yes, Mr. President, just want to lift up the name and the family of Coach Cardwell. He was the inaugural KIPP collegiate football coach. Coached many kids on the west side, including my own. So just want to send condolences to him and his family.
Councilmember Lewis.
I want to second that to Coach Caldwell, who coached me and taught me in elementary school. He used to pop me on my knuckles and taught me how to do push-ups on my knuckles to teach discipline, but I needed him at that school at that time period. I also want to lift up the family of DeMarcus Bolton, a 35-year-old 2005 graduate of Washington High School. I want to lift up the entire Booker T 2005 Washington High School family, who I know is dealing with this tragic death at Sylvan Road at a barbershop in a different way. So I want to lift up DeMarcus Bolton and the entire Booker T Washington 2005 class.
Thank you. Councilmember Faroki.
I just want to echo Councilmember Juan and recognize the passing of Amy St. Pierre. It happened in District 2. I also want to acknowledge the 4 of the women who are recovering from gunshot wounds as a result of that mass shooting. It is one more call to action on gun control, and hopefully we'll see some action soon. But I know this body stands in condolences and heartfelt love and care for the St. Pierre family. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? For these and for others who are unnamed, would you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now we'll move to proclamations, commendations, and other special awards. First off today, we will have in recognition of Eta Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. If all of those associated would come forward, and I would ask Councilmember Boone to come forward for this proclamation.
Good afternoon. I am Andrea Boone, a member of the Atlanta City Council. I am so very happy to honor these distinguished men, the men of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Inc. Alpha Phi Alpha was the first intercollegiate Greek letter fraternity established for African American men, was founded on December 4th, 1906, at Cornell University in New York by 7 college men who recognized the need for a strong bond of brotherhood among African American descendants in this country. Alpha Phi Alpha chapters were established at other colleges and universities throughout the United States. Some notable Alpha Phi Alpha men were W.E.B. Du Bois, Adam Clayton Powell Jr., Edward Brooke, Martin Luther King Jr., Thurgood Marshall, Andrew Young, William Gray, Paul Robeson, and so many others. Today, there are so many of you that help make this city run. Behind me, I have our former state representative, Bob Holmes, Pastor Walter Kimbrough, Pastor Herman Skip Mason, our historian. We have Mr. Lamont Carr, Dr. Kenneth Augustus Walker, who helps us in the community, and none other than our friend, Mr. Kearns, who works in the city of Atlanta and labors tirelessly. I will now turn it over to our president of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Eta Lambda Chapter, for their 103rd anniversary.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Boone. It brings me great pleasure as the 39th president of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the Eta Lambda chapter, to be here to receive this proclamation. And we have a few brothers that are going to bring words. And so first we'll ask Brother Ronald Natson to bring words on behalf of the chapter.
To the mayor and city council of this great city, I'm Ronald Natson, past Eta Lambda president, past Georgia District Director, and past Southern Region Vice President of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. On behalf of our General President, Willis Lonzer, our Southern Region Vice President, Cecil Howard, and our District Director, Brother James Ford, and the nearly 2,000 Alpha men who reside in the city of Atlanta, it is a distinct honor and a profound privilege to bring greetings on the distinguished men who wear the black and old gold. The mission of Alpha Phi Alpha is to develop leaders, promote brotherhood and academic excellence while providing advocacy and service in our communities. Through our national programs, Go to High School, Go to College, A Voteless People is a Hopeless People, and Project Alpha, and through the hundreds of local community service projects that we conduct, especially our Project Excel, mentoring young men at Washington High School, we strive to be first of all and servants of all. Since the founding of Alpha Phi Alpha on December 4th, 1906, we have established, and history has recorded, that the men of Alpha has been a driving force in the United States, in the state of Georgia, and the city of Atlanta. We've had 2 Eta Lambda brothers to serve as the mayor of this great city, Maynard Holbrook Jackson and Andrew Young. We've had brothers like Martin Luther King, Alonzo Herndon, Hamilton Holmes, Congressman David Scott, Joseph Lowry and C.T. Vivian, and many, many others. We continue to hold high the aims of fraternity, where manly deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind are our goals, and we serve not grudgingly or out of necessity, but because of our belief in the mission of Alpha Phi Alpha. As Eta Lambda prepares to celebrate its 103rd anniversary, we are excited. Because of our dedication, loyalty, hard work, and commitment of the men of Alpha, we can truly say that we are the College of Friendship, the University of Brotherly Love, and the School for the Better Making of Men. It has been my pleasure to bring you greetings today, and I pray that the City Council will continue to keep the best interests of the citizens of Atlanta in your deliberations and your actions. Thank you.
We will now have words from our 32nd General President, Brother Darrell Matthews.
Thank you. It is 2 minutes. So. To the City Council President, Doug Shipman, members of the Atlanta City Council, my brothers in Alpha, and those who wish they were, friends and supporters, my name is Darrell Matthews. I have the pleasure of being 32nd past General President of this august body. It is my pleasure and a high honor to bring you greetings. There are no words to describe the sight of a room filled with brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. These are men of action, men of means, and men of substance. We've had the honor and pleasure of the mentorship and the brotherhood and fellowship with the first 2 African-American mayors of the great city of Atlanta. You've heard them mentioned previously, Alpha Brothers Honorable Maynard Holbrook Jackson and Andrew Jackson Young Jr. We've also enjoyed the brotherhood of the Honorable late 3rd Ward City Councilman, Brother Ivory Lee Young Jr. For just a moment, I want you to look around the room. Look at the men here assembled. I want you to realize the significance of this moment. Where else in America can we find this many doctors, lawyers, academicians, scholars, preachers, scientists, architects, engineers, elected officials, officers of the law, and college brothers assembled to bring our brotherhood to the neighborhood, where we are advocates and servants for all mankind? Where else in America can you find that? This moment, this powerful moment, is one worth remembering. We are not any ordinary organization. We are, in fact, extraordinary. Because of us, membership in Alpha Phi Alpha is not only about the bond of brotherhood, it is about the bond to do good, and good we have done and must continue to do. We say in Alpha that if service is beneath you, leadership is beyond you. Our brother, Dr. Martin Luther King, said anybody can be great because anybody can serve. Henry Ward Beecher said this about greatness. Greatness lies not in being strong, but in the right use of strength. Thank you for affording us this opportunity and this moment as we humbly reflect on our mission. Thank you, Councilman.
So we understand very well that while we are being recognized for 103 years of service to the city of Atlanta, we don't do it alone. We have many supporters, and we want to take this time to acknowledge one of our main supporters, Councilwoman Andrea Boone. And so we have a token of recognition for you. And yes, she is our Sarah.
And now Pastor Walter Mobley, who worked in the city of Atlanta for over 30 years, helping our employees, being there for those families. Pastor Mobley, will you have a word?
I don't know what to say. I want to thank the council, the city council, and all the work that you do for our citizens. I'm a proud resident of the city of Atlanta. I've worked with Council Member Boone for over, I don't want to give her age, number of years. And she has done so much to help us be what we need to be in the community. Thank you so much for all your efforts, for all your support, for all your love, for all your kindness, and for all pushing us all to be better. We, the men of Alpha Phi Alpha, love this city. We love our state. We love our country, and we're going to work to make sure that it will be better for all mankind. Thank you.
The Honorable Byron D. Amos.
Thank you. Just like everyone else, it is an honor and a pleasure to stand up here in this celebration. As I look down this line and see men that have actually helped raise me and mold me, I think to my very own blood brother who is a member of this fraternity. But standing here, I see a lot of brothers in the struggle that will continue to lead this city, lead this nation Even my brother Kenley back here, who is actually on the Washington High Go team with me, and everyone know if you're standing for the kids at Washington High, I'm standing with you. So, and then also with Ivor, we shared many conversations. I already had my degree. He always suggested which path of life to go. So it was too late to tell me to go to Hampton, but he always suggested this path. But just want to say thank you for your celebration. Thank you for the time and the leadership and the love, most of all, that you have shared with the students of Washington and in this entire city. Thank you.
And now we will have a brief video celebrating Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity 103rd Anniversary, Eta Lambda Chapter. The video, please. Thank you. We would also like to recognize former State Representative Derek Jackson. Thank you. For the official matter at hand, in recognition of Eta Lambda Chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Inc., whereas the Atlanta City Council is pleased to recognize the Eta Lambda Chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Inc. on the occasion of their 103rd anniversary. And whereas in 1919, a group of college graduates came together to form a chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Inc. in Atlanta, officially sanctioned as Delta Lambda Chapter. The new chapter was given the name Eta Lambda in 1920. And whereas the chapter has a legacy of leadership, service, and commitment worth remembering, Eta Lambda continues its legacy by fostering relationships with its three mentee chapters, Alpha Rho, Morehouse, Alpha Phi, Clark, Atlanta, and Zeta Mu, Georgia State. And whereas the Eta Lambda chapter is committed to many deeds, scholarship, and love for all mankind, and sits as one of the largest chapters in Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Inc., with more than 200 active brothers of honest devotion to serving the metro Atlanta area. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the Atlanta City Council, on behalf of the citizens of Atlanta, do hereby celebrate the Eta Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Inc. on their 103rd anniversary. And we, the city of Atlanta, thank you for your years of service. President.
You want to turn it around?
Look at me. Okay, now stand right here. Stand right here. Stand right here. Yep. All members, please.
Go this side.
Go out that door. I got some other pictures.
Go back this way. She's telling us to go this way. President, where do you want us to go? This way? But I got all of them. Okay.
I'm gonna follow what Andre said.
Okay.
Follow Andre.
Thank you. Next, we will have the recognition of Mr. Ira Joe Johnson. So if you are here with the proclamation for Mr. Ira Joe Johnson, please come forward, and I would ask Councilmember Bond to step forward for that presentation.
I want to say good afternoon to everyone and apologize to those who are seated here and our honorees for the unusual way they had to enter into the chamber. It is a distinguished person that we're honoring here today, someone who has been a servant of the public and a public servant throughout his career as he has matriculated around our city and our state. And it is often when we have proclamations that we're honoring those persons, places, people, and things that have done a tremendous amount to enrich our city and make our city better. And Ira Joe Johnson has done just that with his life. And so I will read the proclamation in his honor in pertinent part. In recognition of Reverend Ira Joe Johnson, J.D., Whereas the Atlanta City Council is pleased to recognize Reverend Ira Joe Johnson, a faithful minister, civil rights lawyer, and author. Whereas Johnson was born in Dry Branch, Georgia, in Twiggs County near Macon, and was the third of 14 children born to Reverend Hardy Candy Boy and Pluanna Carswell Johnson. And what does Candy Boy come from? A minister, he was a minister named Candy Man, okay. Whereas he received his former education from the Jacksonville High School and Jefferson High School in 1969, where his love for politics began as president of the student council for his senior class and the lead civil rights student demonstrations where he was arrested among several other students. Whereas throughout his life, the fight against brutality was the driving force for a lot of his success. In 1968, Johnson had the pleasure of meeting Dr. King at the Zion Hill Baptist Church in Macon, 12 days before King's assassination. And whereas he continued the legacy in so many ways in his life, he stamped his legacy by becoming the first MLK student scholar at Morehouse College, and to date is the only Morehouse College student in 150 years responsible for inspiring $5 million to be donated to Morehouse College. That deserves some applause. And whereas he has served the Atlanta City Council under mayors Maynard Jackson and Andrew Young in the Office of Contract Compliance, where he assisted several minority businesses to help to facilitate contracts for $80,000 or more, whereas Johnson impacted the lives of so many through his career. His dedication is far done, and he is currently working on the Ira Joe Johnson Chair in Racial Reconciliation at Morehouse College for the 2024 year, which will be associated with the Carter Center. And whereas he is also an advisor to former President Jimmy Carter. Now, therefore, we, the members of the Atlanta City Council, on behalf of the citizens of the city of Atlanta, do hereby proclaim this day as Ira Joe Johnson Day in our fair city. In witness thereof, I have set my hand and have caused the seal of the city of Atlanta to be hereunto affixed. Congratulations, thank you, Reverend Johnson. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. Ira, you're a great man, and this is a day that is long in coming. We've been trying to honor Ira for 7 years, but he is so humble that he had refused and said, no, 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 no. But finally, we got his daughter and his friends to drag him down here and let us do it. But prior to that, Ira, just like on This Is Your Life, there's a council person whose father you helped and assist and worked shoulder to shoulder with in the civil rights movement. Do you know who that person is?
Julian Bond?
No, I'm right here. I'm talking about somebody else. No, we're talking about Councilwoman Andrea Boone.
Oh, Reverend Boone.
And just like on This Is Your Life, you all give her a round of applause as she comes to the microphone.
Your dad was the man.
Yes, yes, he was. Thank you so much on behalf of my family and the civil rights family and the city of Atlanta. Thank you for being a dedicated and diligent servant for the citizens of this city. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other colleagues that would like to make a comment? Well, before we hear from our honoree, we want to hear from someone who you had a direct hand in benefiting. And those of us here in Atlanta for the last 40 years have benefited from his great work. I'd like to ask Mr. Shelley Butch Anthony of This Is It to come forward and give us a word on your behalf.
This is it, Bobby.
That's right.
It must be the rib tips.
All right, that's it, that's it. You know, first of all, I give honor to Christ, who's the head of my life, and to the city council. You know, the Bible says the greatest amongst you are those that serve. You know, and I thank God for the city of Atlanta, city council, and the ones that serve here, because I was able about, somewhere around 35 years ago to get a $25,000 loan. And we still here today, and Ira played a major part in us getting that loan, and that was just something that kind of helped booster us and get us going at that time, and that was a long time ago. But, when I think back of all that has happened over that time, Ira's in a documentary that is going to show at the Fox Theater June 11th. And the whole Atlanta and the whole world is invited. It's free of charge. This is its way of giving back to the community, of showing the goodness of God and what God has done and how he has used people, along the way to help us. And I think each and every one of you, we still serve the city of Atlanta today. We do catering for the city, and different people in the city, come by and patronize us, and I just want to say thank you to the city of Atlanta and everybody that has supported us for 40 years. We are celebrating our 40th year anniversary this year, so I just, it's been a long ride, and we're going to tell a tremendous story, and I hope that it inspires somebody else to go forward with their business, and stop by the city of Atlanta and see if they could be a help. So again, thank you.
My daughter, Tammy. My daughter.
This is the daughter of the honoree. Tammy, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon. I am Tamara Stevenson, daughter of Ira Joe Johnson, Sr. On behalf of our family, we are very proud of my dad. I'm extremely proud. I told my students and my principal that I have to go to be somewhere to support my dad, because he's always supported me from my days walking me into Spelman to graduating, walking me down the aisle. Always been a great support. I watch how he, love on so many people here in Atlanta, and so we're extremely proud of him. One thing I'll leave you with is, my dad has always said, do everything in excellence. And so you serve, you be kind to all mankind, but you do it with excellence. So I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite up one of the greatest city employees, former city employees ever, Ms. Sue Ross. Used to be the head of Office of Contract Compliance and an excellent expert photographer.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure for me to be here today to speak on behalf of Ira Joe Johnson. Ira Joe was an employee in the Office of Contract Compliance during the administrations of Mayor Andrew Young and Mayor Maynard, the third administration of Mayor Maynard Jackson, during the time that initially Rodney Strong was the director and I was deputy director, and then when I was director. Ira was deeply committed to minority businesses and to making sure that they got a leg up. People think that when Maynard made a proclamation that we were going to have minority businesses, that it just happened. It didn't happen. There were staff that helped work with the businesses and that monitored the contracts that they were on. And Ira monitored contracts and assisted businesses in getting through the city programs, the city process, procurement process, which is not easy. And I wanted to thank him for his years of service. I just want to close with a quote from his mentor. Uh-oh, it went away. All right, hold on. Dr. Mays. And Dr. Mays said, whatever you do, do it so well that people looking on will feel that the task was reserved, especially for you, by God himself. And the task in Atlanta of serving minority businesses was reserved for Ira Joe Johnson.
Thank you.
Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend, the servant of the people of Atlanta, Mr. Ira Joe Johnson.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Councilman Bond. I like y'all don't know what Dry Branch, Georgia is. I noticed y'all looked around when they said Dry Branch, Georgia. Well, if you go down through Macon, soon you'll see a road down there called the Ira Joe Johnson Highway. So you know you're coming through Dry Branch, Georgia. Giving honor to God, the maker of heaven and earth, and the creator of all heavenly things. To our honorable mayor, Mayor Dickens, to our honorable city council president, Doug Shipman, council members, employees, citizens, my family and friends. To my wife, Ruby, of 45 years, who put up with me for 45 years. Sue told me last night, make sure I mention Ruby, because Ruby put up with me. But my daughter Tammy is the only one who will listen to my speeches and sermons around the house, and she's here today. Thank you, Tammy. To my good friend, I was friend with his dad, Julian Bond, and I traveled a lot. It was good to see Michael here. Michael tried to do this, as he said, 7 years ago. And I didn't think I was worthy, because all I was doing was what God told me to do. I had an assignment from God. So why do I need an honor if I'm doing what he told me to do? And I felt like I had done what he told me to do, but I come today to say that I had open heart surgery right after 7 years ago. And I'm standing here today blessed. I done what he told me to do. I done what he told me to do. He told me to love everybody. And I've done that too. I've done what he told me to do. And next week I will celebrate 50 years from Morehouse. And I was able to give $5 million to Morehouse. Andrew Young said you don't have to be a millionaire to give away $1 million. But I was able to give away $5 million because I asked. I held my mouth right, as my brother used to say. I approached Mr. Mitchell of Gone with the Wind, Margaret Mitchell of Gone with the Wind, and he was able to do that for us. I started this journey, I would say, March 23rd, 1968, at the Zion Hill Baptist Church in Macon, Georgia, where I met Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. King's plane was running late. And he was on a mission to help the poor people's march. 1 hour went by, we were still waiting on Dr. King. 2 hours went by, no Dr. King. 3 hours went by, the preacher said, don't give up. Dr. King's having problems with his plane. 4 hours went by, we started singing songs. We ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. Turn us around, we ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. We're gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching down the freedom way. 5 hours, Dr. King walked in the church. The church just roared. Dr. King preached what looked like 3 sermons that day. He preached about love. All of them had to do with love. Love ye one another. He talked about the Good Samaritan. He talked about the Good Samaritan. Afterwards, I made my way to the pulpit where Dr. King was, and I said, Dr. King asked me what school I was going to attend. And I said, I would love to go to Morehouse. But it was 14 kids in my family. My dad was a mechanic. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. And I was told I couldn't go to Morehouse. But when you take the SAT test, you know you're supposed to send it to 3 different schools, Michael, in case you don't get in the first one, the second one. Well, I wrote Morehouse 3 times. Morehouse, I said, I'm going to Morehouse. And I love to go to Morehouse. And I became the first Martin Luther King scholar at Morehouse College. And the only one to bring $5 million. Make note of that. 12 days after meeting Dr. King, he was assassinated in Memphis. 12 days later. You got to remember now, meeting Dr. King was like, in my old sense, meeting Jesus on the way to the cross. He had been to Memphis already, and they had rioted there, and he left and came to Macon to get away. So when they assassinated Dr. King, I walked the road down in Dry Branch, Georgia. Some people in the north was throwing rocks and rioting. You can't throw rocks in the country. If you do, you hit your grandma's house next door. You can't riot if you wanted to. So I walked the road. And I came back late that night, and my daddy said, "Where you been?" I said, "Daddy, they killed Dr. King. They killed Dr. King." He said, "Yeah, but what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it?" So my whole life has been about trying to show my daddy what I'm going to do about it. I sat down and wrote a letter to the Macon Telegraph that appeared all over the nation, asking why would anyone kill a man who preached love. It appeared all over the country, and I ended up getting a scholarship to Morehouse. But I also got a letter from the FBI saying that Dr. King was a communist. So I've been on this road a long time. 6 months later, I led a demonstration in Twiz County. Check the record. I was arrested, thrown in jail in Jeffersonville, Georgia. But the next day, Sheriff Earl Hamrick, the longest serving sheriff in the country, named Charles Thorpe the first black deputy sheriff in that town. First black deputy sheriff in that town. That's what I did. Give me your hand for that. What are you going to do about it, my daddy said. Then I met Dr. Benjamin Mays, and I wrote a book that not only brought $5 million to Morehouse, but made about 3 movies. I went to Washington and worked for Jimmy Carter, where I met Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat. I also met Nelson Mandela. I worked with Bill Clinton and served as a White House liaison. All the while trying to answer that question, what are you going to do about it? So I stand here today asking the mayor, what are you going to do about it? Asking the city council, what are you going to do about it? We're having our young people killed every day. What are you going to do about it? Young people getting shot up. What are you going to do about it? We got to do something about our kids. I saw on TV where a young man came to Atlanta, and he was just visiting, and he got shot at a club. We got to do something about it. It's not good enough. Thank you, Brother Alphas. I love what you do, but you got to get in the street, do something. You got to do something. I love the fraternity and sorority, but you got to do more than go to that. You got to do more than that. You got to join up with the preachers and teachers and make a difference for the least of these. What are you going to do about it? Well, son, I'll tell you, as Langston Hughes said, life for me ain't been no Christian stair. It's had tacks in it and splinters and boards torn up and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the times I've been climbing on and reaching landings and turning corners and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So, boy, don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps because you find it's kind of hard. Don't you fall now. For I'm still going, honey. I'm still climbing. And life for me ain't been no Christian stair. Thank you very much.
The doors of the church are open. Let's go up here. Pass the plate. Come on up. We're going to take a picture.
We're going to take a picture up here.
Thank you very much. I'm a Baptist preacher, so I ain't going to turn it down. No, open the door.
Thank you. Finally today, in recognition of National Public Works Week, we actually have 2 related proclamations, one from Councilmember Winston and one from Councilmember Faroki. And for anyone who is here for the recognition of National Public Works Week, please come up to the podium.
All right, everyone. We'll let everyone get squeezed in here so we can get started. Good afternoon. I'm Jason Winston, council member for District 1, and I am honored today to be here to present a proclamation to the Department of Public Works in honor of National Public Works Week. I'm also here with my colleague, Councilmember Amir Faroqi, who will also be honoring the week with a proclamation to the Department of Transportation as well. This is a great honor to give to the Department of Public Works because they do so much for our city, keeping our city clean. The workers each and every day come today. They work very hard for the city of Atlanta, and I just want to thank them personally for all they do. And I think about a year and a half ago when I first got elected, and we were in the throes of the pandemic, and the women and men of the Department of Public Works came to work each and every day throughout the pandemic, working hard to continue to keep our city clean. And it is a testament to their hard work, the great leadership that they have, that they continue today to come in each and every day working very hard to keep our city clean, and we thank you very much for that. At this time, I want to recognize Commissioner Wiggins, if he has a few words on behalf of the Department of Public Works. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Councilmember Winston. First, it is my honor to serve as the Commissioner of Public Works. As Councilmember Winston mentioned, they are the unsung heroes. They are out there during times of inclement weather. Not only are they the unsung heroes, sometimes they're the unseen heroes. The work that they do is not really a measure of determining how well they're doing their job, because what they do is it's unseen. It's keeping the city clean. It's keeping the vehicles rolling. This has been the most gratifying position of my entire career, not because of the title. It's the association of being with such dedicated women and men who really don't make a lot of fuss, but they just get the job done silently behind the scenes. I've challenged them over the last 2 years in every way. Not only have they met my expectations, they have exceeded my expectations, and I only expect for us to continue to grow, not as a team, but as a nationally known department, professionally ran and operated department. So would you help me in giving a round of applause to my team who works so hard? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And again, I just want you all to just thank you for allowing me to be the face of all of the hard work that you do. I am proud to be your commissioner, and I hope that you're proud of the work that we've accomplished together. And I look forward to the future because we have much more work to be done. I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Wiggins. Would any of my colleagues like to say anything on behalf of the Department of Public Works? Councilmember Michael Julian Bond.
Just briefly, I just want to say thank you to the people who've chosen to make the Department of Public Works their career and to give their lives in service to the citizens of Atlanta. You know, there are many departments that can count their interactions with citizens. We know how many people call 911. We know how many places the fire department goes. We know how many times the police interact with the public. But what the Department of Public Works does is incalculable, because they are the folks who provide and maintain the infrastructure and support for every other city department, even city council. When we ride on roads, when we walk on the sidewalks, when we go out in the community, when we turn on our lights, it is the Department of Public Works that has made that happen. Their impact on Atlanta is ubiquitous. You all are the bread for which the service that the city of Atlanta provides is buttered. God bless you and thank you.
The Honorable Andrea Boone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a proclamation that I so wish that I was presenting. Mr. Chair, I really wish they would let me do this. This is great. You know why? Because these are the people that make Atlanta, Atlanta. Let's give them another hand. And so many of them weren't able to come today, but we want to go out and see them because those folks are really our heroes and sheroes in the city of Atlanta. So congratulations and thank you for always answering the call.
Thank you. So now I'll get on with the business of reading the proclamation that I have here in front of me. In recognition of National Public Works Week, whereas the Atlanta City Council is pleased to recognize National Public Works Week, a week dedicated to educating the public about the value and necessities of public works projects and public works professionals. And whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vital to sustainability and resilient communities, the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people. And whereas the infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector. And whereas public work plays a vital role in rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Atlanta to gain knowledge and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public work programs in the respective communities. And whereas public works departments across the nation enhance the prestige of our city and are often the unsung heroes of society. These professionals go over and beyond to serve the public good with daily dedication while improving the quality of life for present and future generations. And whereas this week energizes and educates the public on the importance of public works in their daily lives, planning, building, managing, and operating at the heart of their local communities to improve everyday quality of life. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the Atlanta City Council, on behalf of the citizens of Atlanta, do hereby designate the week, May 21st to May 27, 2023, as National Public Works Week, and urge all citizens to pay tribute to our public works professionals and recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life. So again, I just want to thank you all for your tremendous service and dedication to the city of Atlanta. I mentioned this in our city utilities meeting, but my kids look forward to the day of yard collection to go out so they can see the trucks passing by because they know how much they care about you, and so many other citizens of the city of Atlanta do as well. So thank you again for your service to our city. Thank you.
All right, I am before you as chair of the Transportation Committee, and I'm here to celebrate ATL DOT alongside Public Works for National Public Works Week. I will not read this proclamation. It sounds in large part like the one that Councilor Winston just read, but me not reading the proclamation is not any indication that DOT is any less worthy of recognition. First, I want to say to Public Works, thank you, because we oftentimes don't recognize, I think Commissioner Wiggins indicated this, but a lot of what you do is unseen. It's over holiday weekends when folks are having Thanksgiving dinner or Easter weekend, or it's late at night when folks are sleeping. Y'all step up and get stuff done. And I always marvel every Friday in my neighborhood, but like clockwork, recycling and sanitation is there on my street within half an hour every week. And so it's a commitment to efficiency and getting the job done. I want to say thank you. To DOT, all of you in this room know that when you walk out of this building, for the most part, everything you step on this public is governed by and maintained by our Department of Transportation. So when you see a new four-way stop goes in that makes it safer for you and your family to cross the street, when a crosswalk gets repainted, when a street gets repaved, when a bike lane gets put in, when we have oftentimes hard but necessary conversations about making our streets safer. That's ATL DOT working day and night to make our city more multimodal and safer. And so I want to recognize the symbiotic relationship that happens between Public Works and DOT to get stuff done to make sure our infrastructure is both safe and functional and clean, as is our city. And so I want to welcome up Commissioner Cavanis from ATL DOT to make a few remarks, but I hope you'll join me in celebrating ATL DOT today. We do photo first. All right. Ms. Booz.
Just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to stand amongst this esteemed group. Just full disclosure, my start date was January 3rd, 2023. So I've been a soft observer of the role that this group of men and women play in the city of Atlanta. I've come to learn that Atlanta DOT is a product of Public Works, so all respect and all honor due to Department of Public Works. I've worked with this fine gentleman, learned, mentored by, and been a part of the opportunities that Atlanta DOT can offer this city. And I just want to say thank you to my colleagues. I want to say thank you to council for your support and being there for us when we are in need, recognizing the tireless hours, the work that our folks have done. I also want to mention that Atlanta DOT was provided or offered an award for the snow and ice efforts in which we share with this group from Public Works. We were given an excellence award just last month for the work we did and have been doing as it relates to snow and ice. So I want to give them a round of applause, but first just say thank you, and everyone in this room, I think, owe you that respect and that love that you give them every day. So thank you. So I don't want to go away without sharing that we have a lot of work to do. Obviously, you know, we hear about potholes and the conditions of our infrastructure, but in part, we want to move Atlanta forward. The Mayor Dickens administration is making sure that that happens. They've given us all the support we need, and we want to make sure that we satisfy the commitment to the City of Atlanta and the residents here. So thank you for giving us the opportunity. We ask that you be patient while the trucks go by, sometimes at night, but it's all to move Atlanta forward. So thank you, and we look forward to working with everyone in the City of Atlanta.
And when this commissioner say that, I want to say that we had every single light go out in District 12 on a Friday at 4 p.m. The folks called, I walked in, I'm riding my scooter down Cleveland Avenue, and I stopped by the barbershop, and the folks at the barbershop say, Council member, the lights ain't gonna be back on till 7. I see my barber, you know, they crafty. They still cutting in the dark, right? Because they mastered that during the pandemic, right? And so they crafty, they cutting hair in the dark. And I made a call to this man. And by the time I got from, it took about 30 minutes, but in 30 minutes, all our lights were back on because this man made the phone call and he worked those hours to get it going. So I appreciate you for that. That's the work. And when we think about Public Works in our district, in the City of Atlanta, these are the folks that keep us going. The City of Atlanta has grown. When we talk about from the numbers wise, the department has stayed strong and been crafty enough to make sure that we're still getting this stuff done. So I appreciate the men and women and the folks in Public Works Department that are stretching themselves to make sure we keep it going. I got my South Atlanta brother right here sitting right next to me looking at me as we talk. So I appreciate y'all for the service that we're doing in the City of Atlanta. And the folks that's on the back of the trash truck. We praying with y'all. We standing with y'all in the city. Our mayor finna take care of y'all. That's the city that we live in. The city don't work until the man on the back of the trash truck is taken care of like the policeman is taken care of. And that's the city that we're trying to build in the city of Atlanta. To treat the trash man like the policeman, then the city work better. Thank you.
Let's take a picture now. Thank you so much for all the proclamations today and everybody who turned out. We'll now move to remarks by the public. We have an extraordinary number of people who have signed up. So. Before we get started, Councilmember Boone wants to be recognized. Councilmember Boone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanting to wish the Honorable Doug Shipman, and the Honorable Chair of Public Safety, Dustin Hillis, a happy, happy birthday. Thank you all for your good service, and happy birthday. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It is, in fact, my birthday. So because we have so many people here today, I want to make sure that we manage this efficiently and that we have every opportunity for those who have signed up last to be able to speak. So a few things. One, we're going to go by the sheets and in the order of the sheets, including who's donated time to whom. Two, as usual, if I mispronounce your name, I apologize in advance. Please do correct it for the record and for everybody else. Three, we're going to strictly be on time. At 2 minutes, if you are not finished, I will ask you to cease. If you won't cease, then I'll have to ask you to leave the podium. And if you won't do that, I'll have to ask you to leave the chamber because it's not fair to those who have signed up who are waiting to speak. Also, I'm glad that everybody got their cheer in. That'll be the last one today. You can snap, you can wave your hands, but if there's any cheering, the first thing is I'll ask those cheering to leave, and second, I'll clear the chamber and simply call people in to publicly speak. Everybody will get on the list, but I need order in the chamber so that everybody can be heard and so we can do this efficiently because there are people waiting.
Mr. Chair.
And given this, hold on please 1 moment, given this amount of people, I want us to move as efficiently as possible to be fair for folks who are further down the list. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Would you, I think we already, I don't know if you already announced this, but would you mind also calling out 10 names at a time so people in the overflow can hear?
There are folks in the overflow room. We do have fire code for the room, so there are folks waiting outside. So I'm going to call about 8 names. I would ask them to sit in the front to keep the front open. And if the folks who are called who are up next could come down to the front so that they can move through their time, and then I'll call 8 more and then we'll move through that way. Okay? So the first 8 in order will be Eliza Blocker, Najwa Hussain, Martha Fennell, Joanna Lalakata, Maya Nahor, Sean Valdiviezo, Elijah Roebuck, and Erica Zupeda. If those 8 could come down to the front, and then I'll call you each by 8. I'll call you each individually come up. So Eliza Blocker, you're first, 2 minutes. Thank you, thank you. Eliza Blocker's first. Don't make me remove you for singing happy birthday to me. Come on. I think we want to start that way.
Hello, my name is Eliza. I go to Emory and live in Toco Hills, and I do not want funding to go toward Cop City. Atlanta does not want Cop City. Atlanta needs its forest. Losing an enormous portion of tree canopy would be a devastating rapid escalation of the effects of climate change in Atlanta. Atlanta needs its lungs. Atlanta also needs less police presence, not more. A portion of the land, funding, and training will be committed to, quote, urban police training. We do not need more cops in black and brown neighborhoods in Atlanta. We need them out of those communities. Cop City would only be an entrenchment of police brutality and mass incarceration. Atlanta needs its voices heard. We have been crying out to stop Cop City. If Atlanta does not want Cop City, our representatives should listen and not approve funding for the project. There are so many better uses of these dozens of millions of dollars. The money could be put toward solutions to educational inequality. The money could be utilized by expanding MARTA and making it more accessible. Or the money could go towards housing the homeless, or those with lower income, or towards social programming and spaces for marginalized communities. Wherever the money could go, we know one place where it shouldn't go: Cop City. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. Guys, we have to work together here. I'm going to clear the chamber and everybody's going to have to wait outside. We're not going to have cheering after every speaker. It just slows everybody down, and there are a lot of people on this list who want to speak. Am I clear? That's it. You can snap, you wave your hands. Another outburst, it's going to be empty in here. Next up, we'll have Najwa Hussain.
Hi, my name is Najwa, and I'm from Atlanta. Like, really from Atlanta.
Born at Grady Hospital, not far from here, and I got my undergrad and graduate degree in economics from GSU. And I could try to tackle this issue in an educated way, to talk about the studies that show how field trainers' propensity to use force directly influences the new generation's propensity to use force, how increases in police spending lead to increases in the number of misdemeanor arrests, which has a negative effects on a community, or quote the countless academic and research articles that reiterate increases in police spending do not lead to lower crime. But you will not be swayed by evidence, and you will not be swayed by reality. And the reality is that the people of Atlanta don't want this. An economist at a prominent policy interest group said to me with little embarrassment, "We support Cop City because our investors care about safety. These investors include real estate groups, corporations, sporting events, and development plans. Profit. The police protect these things and not the people. You've shown us in the past that you don't care about the people." All of you, if all you have to use are hammers, all you'll see is our nails. And the nails will be the people. And who are these people? The teachers who are forced back into the classrooms without a vaccine to take care of our children, the nurses that are commuting over 2 hours to work because of the closing of Atlanta Medical Center. The truth is, you have a responsibility here. Atlanta has a legacy of civil rights. Andrew Young, Martin Luther King Jr., and Congressman John Lewis, who told us to get into good trouble. And here in Atlanta, you can get killed for doing just that. You can get charged with domestic terrorism. Do not equivocate on this. The fact of the matter is, if this facility is built, it will be against the will of the people, and you are not on the side of democracy.
Thank you. Next will be Martha Fennell. 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm a longtime Atlanta resident, and I've lived here for 35 years, raised 2 children here. My GSU law school daughter lives here with her husband, and my son and his wife live here as well. I've heard it said that only outside agitators are here or care, but I am here on behalf of my DeKalb-based family. Whilst driving here today, I saw, as I'm sure you did, many people in dire physical and mental situations who are in desperate need for homes, mental health care, and assistance. Georgia also has the unfortunate moniker of having the highest mortality rate for Black women giving birth in the entire country because we have health care inequity and health care deserts. Our schools in many areas are in shocking disrepair, short of funding. Our foster care system is abysmal. We have an affordable health care crisis. Our jails are inhumane. Our infrastructure is abysmal, and the list goes on and on. I submit that if you are stewards of our collective tax dollars, and there are so many better ways to spend that dollar that would have a positive impact and produce better outcomes for actual people's lives than a militarized police force. As the pastor said in the opening prayer, you are stewards of the people, not corporate donors to the police foundation. The irony is not lost on me that you all drop and invoke Dr. King's name at the drop of a hat, yet moments later find yourselves supporting the militarization of police and prosecutors who are arresting and charging nonviolent prosecutors as domestic terrorists. For your edification, this is an oxymoron.
Thank you. Next will be Joanna Lalakata. Again, I'm doing the best I can with everybody's name.
Do you hear all those people out there? I do. I'd like to open by saying Cop City is an environmental nightmare. I'm here to reject the Cop City funding and to oppose the building of Cop City as a whole in solidarity with the Stop Cop City movement, the movement that stands with the people of Atlanta, the movement that wishes to see the people thrive. The city in the forest, it's a beautiful idea, and what a luxury it is to get to live in that beautiful idea here in the city of Atlanta. Here at Weelaunee Peoples Park, here at Entrenchment Creek Park. We're here to protect this beautiful idea, this sanctuary for life on earth at the heart of our city. Spending $33 million to demolish this land is dystopian. It is, to me, unimaginable, unspeakable, a line that is never to be crossed. Yet, here we are, at another meeting, planning the next protest, the next event, the next community building mixer, because the message is somehow not getting through. The people know what they want, what they need. They have spoken time and time again. And to everyone gathered here today to support the life of this earth and the lives of all those who reside here, know you have my heart, you have my love and support. My time is your time, and boy, do I got time.
Thank you. Next will be Maya Nahor.
Do I have your attention? Because you certainly have mine. I am watching, as is the rest of my generation, and younger people that your generation taught me to be a role model for. The window in which we can enact meaningful climate change measures is rapidly closing. This is among the final opportunities, and you are allowing it to vanish before our eyes. As public servants, you know very well that you can't make something from nothing. No amount of tree planting will make up for destroying established, incredibly complex ecosystems. We as humans have the power to prevent climate disaster, just like we have the tools to face the challenges that you campaigned on. As you know, the key barrier is human-made barriers to change. We must prioritize people and planet over corporations and profit. We have the highest percentage of tree canopy of any major metropolitan area in America. It's here in our city. Out of every empty lot and warehouse, why build there? Why endanger forest lands critical to ensuring Atlanta's climate resiliency? Why target disenfranchised BIPOC neighborhoods that already face disproportionate effects of environmental injustices? I grew up here among the trees. I learned the history of the land. I taught myself to forage. I gave back to the community with Concrete Jungle. I co-founded the Athens Sunrise Movement Hub at UGA. I got my degree in cellular biology, and I'm starting my master's in climate and society. What more can I do? How is that not enough for you? How can I make my Atlanta-raised voice heard in Atlanta? Atlanta did its job raising me, and now I'm trying to do my job to protect it. I learned this lesson as a child, and as I recall, your generation was in the room with me. You were reading me The Giving Tree. You were reading the Lorax. When will you learn this lesson? We just pledged liberty and justice to all. Where is justice for Tortuguita? I will remind the world of your failure to protect
Time
and
has
serve.
expired. Thank you. Next will be Sean Valdivieso.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Valdivieso. I am a first-generation American, a local business owner, and a part-time City of Atlanta resident. I own 2 film production companies in town that have created dozens of jobs and added millions to the local economy. Our office is right on Irwin Street in the heart of the city, just 2 blocks away from MLK's birthplace, something I'm personally very incredibly proud to say. Down the street, week after week, I see houseless population increase, yet nothing is done to help them or alleviate their needs. Instead, the city places large, sharp boulders under highway bridges so that the little shelter that they can use is now uninhabitable. That's not what this city needs. Reform in health, education, and community outreach. That's what the city needs. Affordable housing, transportation, and infrastructure investments, that's what the city needs. Cop City is not the help that the city needs. In fact, it's the complete opposite of what our constituents is asking for you. Listen to them outside as they yell. Cop City will be the single determining factor of me moving my company out of the state over to LA or New York City. All of this at the beginning of the city council meeting, I saw all of you close your eyes and bow your heads in prayer, praying to God. Is God asking us to build God's city? Is Jesus asking us to build God's city? Cop City, the same Jesus that flipped the tables of the greedy and the powerful who have overtaken the temple, the same Jesus that fought for the oppressed and the marginalized, the same Jesus who fed the poor. Jesus wasn't for police unions. He was absolutely against them. Praying in this chamber while then trying to pass Cop City is absolutely hypocritical and shameful. Stop siding with the police unions and the big corporations and listen to your constituents, or risk finding yourselves jobless the next election cycle. Lastly, not any less important, the forest is being destroyed in order to build Cop City, which is absolutely insane. It's like adding
Time's
fuel to the
expired.
fire to the destruction. Thank you.
Thank you. Elijah Roebuck.
Hi, my name is Elijah, and I'm a student at Emory in Council District 6 with an extensive background in police reform. Thank you for taking your time to listen to us today. Since coming to Atlanta, I have fallen in love with this city. The blending of cultures, the bustling life, this has made me want to make Atlanta my forever home. However, I'm concerned about the apparent prioritization of police over people here in Atlanta. Cop City will not benefit the citizens of Atlanta for three major reasons. First, the environmental impacts will be terrible. Tearing down a forest and building a bomb testing site will cause significant issue to the local communities and wildlife. Second, more policing does not equal safer communities. With the Georgia State Senate passing various voter suppression and anti-trans legislation, your officers will be forced to prevent children from getting life-saving care, as well as prevent people from voting. The police are supposed to assist the public, not hurt them. Third, there are so many better options for funding this great city than building a police training site. Atlanta's public transportation needs desperate repair, Atlanta's homeless population needs significant help, and students in Atlanta are struggling to get their basic needs met. As Mayor Andre Dickens said, it is the year of the youth, so why don't we actually invest in them instead of just talking the talk? Overall, it pains me to see the Atlanta Police Foundation and the wealthy elites of this city control how the city council votes. I implore you all to please listen to your constituents and vote no against funding for Cop City.
Thank you. Next is Erica Zepeda.
Hi, my name is Erica Zepeda. I've been a Georgia resident all my life, and my purpose here today is to talk about stopping Cop City. Instead of promoting Cop City and militarization force against our community, why don't we use the money towards things that actually matter? The homeless problem that I have to see every time I get on and off the MARTA station on my way to downtown, why don't we put money into that? The jail system that has put inmates in unspeakable conditions that they have to resort to suicide just because they find that death itself is more humane than the living conditions that they are put in. Why can't we fund money into that? The roads that could be made even safer for Atlanta residents, and even resources that can be put to enrich the learning experience of kids everywhere in Fulton County schools. That's something we can also put money into. At least $33.5 million of taxpayer money should not be put into another facility that will put more trauma on our generation, a generation that has already dealt with enough, from a pandemic that took the lives of our family and friends, to shootings that shouldn't have us calling our parents to tell them that we love them if anything happens to us. Trauma cannot combat trauma. It needs to heal beforehand, not be forced into a community that was built up by the people of Atlanta. Do what's right for our generation and generations to come, and stop Cop City. Thank you.
Thank you. So let me call 8 more people. So if you're in the front row, if you could find another seat so the next 8 can sit, I appreciate it. Tana Taylor, Samuel Fisher, Raina Ferguson, Ava Canales, Oren, last name starts with a P, I apologize. Camille Harris, Rukia Rogers, Violet Von Hanna. Those 8, if you're outside, if you can come into the chamber and come to the front row, those will be the next 8 speakers. Tana Taylor, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Tana Taylor. I am from Gwinnett County, and I have lived in the Atlanta area for the past 4 years while attending university. I do not support the construction of Cop City because I believe that the money could be better spent to improve the quality of living for residents of the Atlanta area instead. The $33.5 million allocated towards this project should be distributed to public school funding, since many teachers are forced to buy school supplies for their students using their own money. This budget should also be distributed towards funding community service projects and providing housing for unhoused citizens due to the fact that nearly 10 in every 10,000 Georgia residents are currently experiencing homelessness. The Atlanta Police Department has already proven that they will abuse their power in order to gain this funding. The murder of Tortuguita, a Cop City protester, is a clear example of this abuse of power. Giving money to this project now would mean that you are supporting the violence against protesters that has occurred. The Atlanta Police Foundation does not need this funding. The residents of Georgia and the Atlanta community does. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Samuel Fisher. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Sam Fisher. I live in District 5, about 10 minutes from the prison farm, and I'm not an outside agitator. I'm here today in complete and total opposition to the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center and any more public dollars going to this project. I'll call it Cop City embodies Atlanta's part in the problems of over-policing, the ever-increasing militarization of the police, the dwindling of democracy in our own state, and the city's active part in the climate crisis that is upon all of us. Residents of Southeast Atlanta and Southwest DeKalb have understood that the prison farm will become a large public park eventually. The city agreed to this when it wrote the South River Forest and the prison farm into part of the 2017 proposal for a massive 3,500-acre public park of what was supposed to be the South River Forest. It is a great shame on the entire city and the city government who voted on this project. There have been dozens of acres clear-cut already, over 80 acres clear-cut already. If you have not seen this depressing site, I encourage you to drive on Key and Constitution roads to see for yourself. On this sad drive, you will see 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 police cars stationed in various places. Why does a construction site need so much surveillance? Surveillance that is very expensive to the public. It's easy because this is an incredibly unpopular project that Atlantans do not want. People in Southeast Atlanta do not want. People in Southwest DeKalb do not want. In response to the largest protests in a generation that had the crystal clear purpose to defund and demilitarize our police, you voted to ignore us and double down. Every week, you vote to keep this project going with your inaction to stop this. When Atlanta is getting hotter every year, the air is ever more dangerous to breathe, our water is more polluted, you vote to destroy the environment and this precious forest. Councilmember Hillis, that includes hardwood trees in addition to these so-called softwood trees. If you do not listen to those whom you represent, you cannot expect to be elected next election. Stop Cop City, stop this project.
Thank you.
Viva Tortuguita.
Raina Ferguson will be next. 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Raina Ferguson, and I was born and raised in Southeast Atlanta in the Village. I've lived down Flat Shoals for 20 years. I'm a third generation. My father and my grandmother were both raised in East Atlanta. The forest has been an integral part of growing up in East Atlanta. The thought of it not being turned into a usable green space for our community is so heartbreaking. We don't want a cop training facility. Mayor Dickens has continuously referred to the forest as trash woods and soft woods. You may see these woods as soft, but those trees are old, and it will take decades to regrow what has been cut down. These forests are all we have in Southeast Atlanta, so you may see them as trash woods, but to us, they are valuable forests, and they give us refuge from the noisy and the hot city. Not to mention, you're all worried about climate change on a global scale, when right now, in my very own neighborhood, there is a way to fight those issues locally. But you're doing the opposite of that by letting them cut down the forest. We do not want this built in our neighborhood. I want access to clean water, clean air, and protection from flooding and rising temperatures, but developing the forest will destroy all of that. We want to protect the South River watershed. North Atlanta has endless miles of beautiful trails along and around the Chattahoochee River, but in South Atlanta, all of our forests are being turned into movie studios and training facilities. Atlanta is proud to be Tree City and to have the largest tree canopy in America before they started clear cutting the last couple of months. The forest was part of the largest urban forest in the country. I want this land to benefit our community. We want to use it to hike, fish, and walk our dogs. And one day, because I love my city so much, one day I want to be able to take my kids to the forest I grew up by. I am an Atlantan through and through, and I'm asking you to please save the forest and stop Cop City.
Thank you. Next will be Ava Canales.
Hello, my name is Ava Canales, and I am a 20-year-old Atlanta native who lives in the Gates at Boulder Crest, one of the neighborhoods adjacent to the South River Forest. Mayor Dickens and his cabinet, along with Police Chief Darren Steinbaum, came to my neighborhood to address the comments and concerns of the residents. As I expected, though, their mayor would only give proper acknowledgement about minor issues, like how many trails will be in recreational areas, or will gunfire be quieter in the residential neighborhoods. All questions about the environmental impact, however, were answered condescendingly and then quickly dismissed. One person asked what the plans are for repairing the damage that is being done to the ecosystem, to which Mayor Dickens replied, "Every single one of your houses was once an ecosystem that was torn down and rebuilt." That is not a valid answer to our questions, and that shows that you don't really even know what you're talking about. The impact that this decision will have on our environment is being completely downplayed and made out to be not as bad and catastrophic as it actually is. This will restrict access to clean air, clean water, and will increase floods, and it will increase allergies, and it will get rid of one of the largest tree canopies in the United States, something that the environment relies heavily on for shade. I find it funny that the city of Atlanta speaks often about environmental damage globally, but now when it is in your hands, you choose to actively destroy the one that is in your own backyard. Harming the citizens you are supposed to represent and protect. As a young woman who is the future of this world, I am scared and sad at how blatantly obvious it is that you don't care about what we need. I don't want bomb testing sites in my backyard. I live in unincorporated DeKalb County. Mayor Dickens and his team want you to think that we want this. I'm here to say that we do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Oren sorry, say it again.
Panovka.
Padovka.
Panovka. P-A-N-O-V-K-A.
Thank you.
Panovka.
You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I remember growing up, Councilman Faruqi used to come to my high school because we went to the same high school, and you would talk to us about the importance of governance in civil life and student organizing. I'm now an organizer at Emory University, where I've been organizing with peers of mine across the entire city. And about 2-3 weeks ago today, protesting, we got the Atlanta police called on us for protesting on our campus. We also just saw reports a few days ago that city workers are severely underpaid and are living in their cars, sleeping outside the perimeter of Atlanta so that they can get to work. We also are watching anti-trans legislation being passed in this state at a moment when people who are transgender, who are homosexual, who are part of the LGBTQ+ community should have the most freedom, the most safety that they've ever had. When a few months ago, somebody who was just barely older than myself was shot 57 times while sitting on the ground with their hands up. And so it's just incredible to me. I know that later today you guys are going to be presented with legislation looking to raise the funding that has already been allocated for Cop City. And so we are all here to ask you to vote against that. When we are allocating money to kill our own civilians instead of funding our civic life, we are embarrassing ourselves as a city. Atlanta has always had a history of civil rights activism, of organizing, of pushing progress in the entirety of this country. We cannot be a center for training people on how to kill other citizens, especially simply because they are black or brown or transgender or gay. If we look at the legislation that is being passed across this country right now, these police are going to be used to enforce that legislation. The legislation being enforced in Florida, soon in Georgia, anti-abortion legislation. Stop Cop City.
Thank you. Next will be Camille Harris.
Hi, everyone. My name's Camille. I'm also a student. I'm a student at Georgia Tech, and we also, similarly, a couple weeks ago, held an organizing event at our campus, shutting down Tech Green to demand a stop to Cop City. And we just think there's better use of this money. We know that as a technological institution, as a research-focused institution, we know that there's mountains of scientific evidence that shows police do not reduce crime. Access to affordable housing, quality education, social services, green spaces, which this will tear down, by the way, all things that actually do reduce crime and actually do help people. And it would be really embarrassing to see you all vote against vote to create Cop City when there's so many better things that this money could be used for. On top of that, Atlanta is one of the most vulnerable cities in the entire country to climate change, and we're doing this project that will destroy a clean water source, destroy the forest, harm wildlife, harm our air quality, make the flooding events of 2009, if they were to happen again with this project done, with a substantial amount of tree canopy gone, they'd be even more devastating. And I hope, especially Brian Amos, knowing that you are the council member of many Georgia Tech students, that you take this seriously and that you listen. Alex Wan, since you proposed that we make every day Earth Day last time I was here, I hope that this is something that you can take seriously and vote against. And all of you, I really hope you do. Yeah, stop Cop City and justice for Tortuguita.
Thank you. Rukia Rogers.
It's 6 minutes, correct?
I only see 2. Give me just a moment. I don't see any other yielded time to you.
It should be 2 other folks. Look, 101, 100.
Oh, gotcha. Yep, 1, 2. Yep, 6 minutes.
Thank you. All right, here we go. All right, greetings to all who are present here today. Again, my name is Rukia Rogers. I'm an early childhood educator, a child advocate, and member of this community. I returned to the City Council as part of the Weelaunee Coalition, a group of caregivers, educators, teachers, families, and children to express our deep concern and objection to the City of Atlanta's plan to build the largest police training facility in this country, known as Cop City, and to protect the Weelaunee Forest. I also want to stand here and call in the love of my ancestors and speak in honor of our dear friend Tort, an environmentalist assassinated, shot 57 times while their hands were held in the air in defense of the forest that we all love and the reimagined world that we are all standing here fighting for today. I also come to you in the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Coretta Scott King, Fannie Lou Hamer, Harriet Tubman, the Freedom Riders and other abolitionists and outside agitators who refused to remain silent in the sight of injustice. 3 years ago, we all heard the voice of George Floyd as he cried out for his mother, as he was publicly murdered by a system entrenched in injustice. It was the beginning of the larger uprising that continues as we stand here today. Dr. King reminds us that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So what is the injustice here today? The injustice is that we continue to invest in a system and a culture of militarization and policing, again, entrenched in injustice and oppression. We incarcerate more people, adults and children, in deplorable, inhumane conditions than any other nation on this earth, separating them from their families. A system that murdered, again, Tyree Nichols by police officers who received training, extensive training from right here in Atlanta. It is a system that murdered LaShawn Thompson, a man that did not have bail and died in the Fulton County Jail alone in deplorable conditions, a man innocent. It is a system that jails attendees of a music festival at the Weelaunee Forest and charges them with domestic terrorism charges as part of continued state repression. It is a system, and I might have to pause here, that assassinated Tamir Rice as a 12-year-old doing what 12-year-olds do. It is a system that we have criminalized the despair of homelessness. We have criminalized poverty. We have criminalized mental illness, including drug addiction. And our remedy is to massively incarcerate people instead of providing the people with the resources and the support that they truly need. So this community is saying no to Cop City and all that it represents. And we are inviting you as council members into that vision to join us in saying no to Cop City. So we have to use our imagination. How could public funds be used instead of Cop City? The question is, what is our vision for this city? How can we imagine new ways of living together? I am proposing, we are proposing, that as a community, we recognize our undeniable interdependence and connections with each other and this earth. That a proposal to harm her, the Weelaunee Forest, her waterways, the animals that inhabit her, causes harm to all of us. It's in the abundance and resources of this world that are shared and conserved that we will have a viable and sustainable earth. It's when we center our relationships with nature and a society as a whole that we are viable. We will build a new world. We will build one full of rituals and practices and communal ways of being that recognizes the rights of all, the right of the newborn baby to be welcomed, held, and nursed for the first 4 years of their lives, the right of the new mother to rest and to be cared for by their community, the right to housing and food, the right to all forms of healing and wellness and health care. So again, we are not only fighting to stop Cop City, and to save the Weelaunee Forest, we are fighting for the beloved community. It is in the beloved community that we hold shared power and resources. It's in the beloved community that power shall not reside in the hands of a few, such as the Atlanta Police Foundation, but that the power shall remain with the land and with the people that inhabit it. Dr. King reminds us again that the time has come for us to civilize ourselves by the total, direct, immediate abolition of poverty. Again, as someone said, we often speak the words of Dr. Martin Luther King and we whitewash it, but let's listen to what that truly means. The time has come to civilize ourselves by the total, direct, and immediate abolition of poverty. So I'm not only speaking to the council here today, I'm speaking to the folks behind me in the other rooms that we will not cede power, that we will not walk away, that we will call on the words of Frederick Douglass that reminds us that power concedes nothing. So we are here again to demand that public funds be used for life-giving resources. It is the future that our children deserve. Join us in that vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Violet Von Hanna.
Hi. I heard where they plan to put the shooting range at Cop City. Did you? Why would you let them scare the children more? Adults are supposed to take care of children away from their families. This is stupid villain mean. Please save Weelaunee. Stop Cop City.
Thank you. So let me call the next group. So Sasha Von Hanna, you'll have 4 minutes. And then I'd like to call the next group Jimmy Hill, I believe it's Joletta Burnett, John Harris, Melanie Futrell, Chase Oliver, Jax Crowder, Kim Harship, and Jay Crawford. If you could come forward and have a seat in the front. And Sasha Van Handel, you have 4 minutes. The timer's not working, so we're keeping it up here.
All right. Hi, I'm a mother and member of the Wilani Coalition. I've been a Georgia voter living in District 5 the past 16 years. I recently came across the Atlanta City Design, Aspiring to the Beloved Community, published in 2017. 7 of you, including Mayor Dickens, were specifically acknowledged within. I understand that book to be promises to Atlanta. Within are statements like, we'll protect the enduring and irreplaceable green lungs of Atlanta, above a map highlighting the South River. And South River Park, tapping our last chance for a massive urban park in the city, we're going to invest in a 1,200+ acre southeastern reserve organized around the tributaries of the South River, quote unquote. Councilmember Faroki, Shook, Hillis, Boone, Overstreet, Bond, and Westmoreland, you have shown us what your promises are worth and whose interests you serve. But now is an opportunity for redemption, and I want to point out that redemption doesn't look like spending $1.6 million to purchase more public forested land. If anything, that just raises a bigger red flag at this whole nasty deal. For you to practically give away 381 acres of public forested land for $10, and then entertain buying 46 acres for $1.6 million public dollars makes absolutely no sense. The disparity in valuations of the South River Forest by the city of Atlanta is egregious. The math doesn't add up, and our futures, our children's futures, will have dire consequences. We've been telling you for years Atlanta doesn't want Cop City. I've been compiling a list of what folks want instead of Cop City, both for the land and for that $33.5 million to be spent on. May this inspire you. De-escalation-focused trauma-informed community safety training, paid maternal and paternal leave. Family leave changes the world from the ground up. Use the money for daycare programs and after-school programs. Being able to walk my kids safely to school on sidewalks makes me feel safer, and more bus shelters. Safer schools, equally resourced, that actually follow child development best practices. Accessible mental health resources. Road repairs. Our roads are awful. Clean the South River. It's one of the most polluted rivers nationwide. Frequently cleaned public restrooms throughout the city. Free public Wi-Fi across Metro Atlanta. ADA accessibility for all sidewalks, intersections, crosswalks in Metro Atlanta. Housing, actual accessible housing. I mean, aren't you embarrassed by headlines like Atlanta is the poster child for the U.S. housing crisis? Public housing, housing for every homeless person.
Could you pause just a second? Guys, especially those in the back, please stop clapping. Go ahead.
Food security. Atlanta needs food security. According to the Atlanta Community Food Bank, 1 in 8 children are food insecure and 1 in 11 seniors. Wilani Forest could be an abundant community food forest farm with outdoor classrooms, outdoor education for kids and adults, with a library and learning center and guided educational nature walks to learn more about the land and wildlife, with a medicine supply house, apothecary for ID books and instructions on how to make your own medicine, play fields and playgrounds, an outdoor community kitchen, a covered outdoor community dining meeting and performance space, camping areas, and peace. No more gunshots, no more cop sirens and helicopters. The truth is, APF is making villains out of all of you. Between the attempted cover-up of Tortuguita's murder, how they plan to put the shooting range right next to the children's prison, and all the environmental devastation, we don't want Cop City. It's time to listen to us instead of corporate interests. This is your opportunity to fulfill your promises, save your legacy and the beloved community for this year of the youth. Please deny all funding.
Next will be Jimmy Hill. Due to yielded time, you'll have up to 10 minutes.
Amen. God is good. God is good. All right. I come here today, as I look around, You know, sometimes I wonder, how do y'all take what we say serious? Or how serious do y'all really take it? I mean, these are real concerns. These are important concerns. These are life and death concerns. And they need to be taken seriously. You know, so many times I've been coming here for the past 4.5 years on behalf of my son, Jimmy Atchison, who was unarmed and surrendered, yet shot and killed by former Atlanta police officer Sean Kim on the assumption of a bogus armed robbery warrant in which a witness came forward and stated that there was no gun nor an armed robbery. 4 years I've been coming here, and I wonder have anybody heard me. 4 years I've seen so many proclamations and so many speeches dealing with Dr. Martin Luther King. But let's understand what Dr. Martin Luther King was really about. It seems like we know what Dr. Martin Luther King was about, but it seems like y'all ain't taking what he said serious. Martin Luther King said everybody should have the right to live their lives free of fear, and everybody should be treated with dignity and respect. And we cannot be satisfied as long as black Americans continue to be the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. My son became one of them victims. 4 years, my son's children have been without their father. 4 years, his sisters and brothers have been without their brother. My son was murdered unnecessarily and unjustifiable. 4 years, I've been walking in the rain, sun, standing in front of this building, City Hall, the state capitol, the county commissioner building, the train stations in the street, holding a Justice for Jimmy sign. And it ain't justice, it's I'm trying to get some type of accountability because I can never bring my son back. So I say this, I say that. How can anybody feel comfortable after hearing the voices of pain and the cries of help from my family? 4 years and not one of you has supported my family. 4 years, and in the process, the last 2 years, we lost my son's grandmother from a broken heart. 4 years, in the last 2 years, we lost his uncle, a very close-knit family. And May 19th last year, we laid my son's mother, Cynthia Atchison, to rest. She died from a broken heart while in this fight for justice for my son. 4 years, and still no support from neither of you. Not saw one of you at a press conference. And I'm not saying our police are bad, but there are some bad apples. They need to be held accountable. No question. 4 years, and you refuse to hold them accountable. You continue to support them, to apply more money, to pay raises and stuff. December of 22, December 16th of 22, last year, a Fulton County grand jury indicted, saw fit enough to indict this officer. Taxpaying citizens saw fit to indict this officer, Sean Kim, and charged him with felony murder, aggravated assault, and violation of oath. And yet still today, no support from not one of you. These are taxpaying citizens that saw the injustice that was done to my son, Jimmy Atchison. 4 years, and still you say nothing. 4 years, I walked with the families, about 24, 25 more other families in Georgia that had lost loved ones to police brutality. And still, you said nothing. You've done nothing. 4 years. 4 years, and you continue to do nothing. Well, you know, I really want to just thank the activists and the advocates. I thank everybody who stood with us. You know, when I think about the young man who was murdered in the forest, off of Boulder Crest, off of Key Road, a road I done went up plenty of times because I'm from Southeast, and I seen he was on his knees and no residue was on his hand. I think about my son, because my son was unarmed and surrendering and received 2 conflicting commands: come out with your hands up, freeze, don't move. And he was shot below the eye 1 time, blowing out his brain. And yet the officer said he feared for his life. If the officer feared for his life, my son was surrounded by 4 officers. Why didn't the other officers fear for his life? Why didn't the other officer shoot? 4 years, y'all know the truth, and still won't say nothing. Yet here we are. We want to just and always shout and quote Martin Luther King. There are too many selfless and scared black people in leadership positions, afraid to stand up for truth and justice. What happened to integrity? What happened to dignity? What happened to character? What happened to godly principles? It's time for a change. And like I said, I stand in opposition with the family of the young man shot, because I think about my son, the way he was shot, unarmed and surrendered, and still murdered. So I'm out here with these families, and I thank everyone. But on May the 1st, a proclamation was given to the families of police brutality. And I thought it was going to be police brutality, but it ended up being, when I got here, I seen anti-gun violence. Call it what it is. Police brutality is police brutality. Stop trying to sugarcoat it. It's police brutality. It's police killing. So I accepted this proclamation. And I had a problem with it. And I went home, and I couldn't sleep. And I tossed and turned. And I tossed and turned. And I tossed and turned. And I thought about Martin Luther King, what he said. There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but it must take it because his conscience tells him it is right. Today, my conscience tells me it is right to return this proclamation that was presented to my family and my son, Jim Atchison, to Keisha Waite and City Council. So I'm handing you the proclamation back. I refuse to accept this.
Thank you. Next will be Joletta Burnett. Two minutes.
My name is Joletta Burnett, and I'm one of the original Aboriginal Anyawayan people in America. And since of history has been whitewashed, we don't hear about the Aboriginal indigenous Americans that were here, that didn't come here on any slave ships. Absolutely. And I'm here to support Stop Cop City. And I heard Mr. Doug Shipman on Saturday saying that he was there to support gun violence. And I just want to know, was he just there to show up or truly to help the people, we the people that really need help here in America and in Georgia here and in Atlanta, because so many are being killed every day. These people should not have been killed, these young men, because it's wrong. It is wrong. And no one is caring. And I'm here to ask, are you all going to care? That's what I want to know. Are you all going to care? Is anyone going to answer? So that's why I came to speak against the Cop City. Absolutely. And it needs to be stopped and it needs to end, because it's an injustice system that lives in America, and no one seems to care. I just want to know, when is someone going to begin to care? That's what I came here to ask. When is someone going to care? Because we need justice, and we need the healthy earth. And as I said before, when I was here May 1st, we need the earth to be healthy. Because if the earth isn't here, we will not be here. We need healthy water, healthy air, the healthy soil, and to be able to breathe what's clean in this earth every day. And we need to stop Cop City. Thank you.
That's very loud. Next will be John Harris. 2 minutes. It starts when you begin.
Okay. Just taking a moment to appreciate everyone who is here, all you counselors. I hope you are seeing the people from your districts here, and I'd like to acknowledge Councilor Faroki, District 2, my counselor. But yeah, I've just come here today to ask a simple question. Is this the best you can think of? The City Council of Atlanta is being asked to allocate $33.5 million of public funds toward a privately operated so-called public safety training facility. Is this the best you can think of? If any of you answer yes, then there has either been a supreme abdication of responsibility to the people who elected you, not those who funded your campaign, but the people you ostensibly represent and serve, or a fundamental failure of imagination. And I don't want to get too much into it, but let's take a moment to imagine, you know? And if it's the case that you have a failure of imagination, I forgive you, because now you are given the opportunity to imagine and choose a better path. These tens of millions of dollars could be spent on any number of things that have been listed here today. Can you truly not even fathom the good that could be done by allocating this money toward free lunches for school children, access to affordable housing, better pay for our public sector employees? If all you imagine is a world where Atlanta is a home to more and more extractive businesses needing the protection of a militarized police force instead of a city where people actually live and thrive, I pity you, because all of these people here today are the proof that imagining and fighting for a better world is possible. I hope you hear us now, and if you choose to ignore these calls, I hope you do not express surprise when people find other means by which to make their voice heard.
Thank you. Next will be Melanie Futrell.
Good afternoon. My name is Melanie Futrell, and I'm a resident of DeKalb County in the Kirkwood neighborhood. I'm a licensed social worker and mental health professional in the state of Georgia, and having worked in the social work field for many years, I've seen firsthand the immense need for increased funding for social services. I believe the $33.5 million that you have the opportunity to allocate to Cop City can be invested in our communities in much more effective ways. I urge you to choose different long-term solutions to crime rather than funding projects that increase militarization of the police. I call for all mental health emergencies to be met with unarmed crisis response. Approving the funding for Cop City would be a slap in the face to all public servants who believe in the nonviolent action of response to crises. So please, please, please hear the voice of Atlanta and do not approve this budget for Cop City. Justice for Tortuguita and all victims of police violence in Atlanta and across the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Chase Oliver.
My name is Chase Oliver. I have lived in and around the city of Atlanta for nearly my entire life. I am here as a member of the Libertarian Party. The reason why I'm saying that is because I think you need to understand that this is not a left versus right issue. This is a right versus wrong issue that we're dealing with Cop City. I'm asking you to listen to your constituents. There are many of them out there. We can hear them right now, but not a single one of you who voted for Cop City is listening to each and every one of them out there. And that is your job. You have been tasked with doing the work that the people who elected you to do. You are not doing that work right now. You are betraying the trust that people have put in you. And not only are you betraying the trust by approving this funding, the police are betraying this trust by asking for this facility. Because the truth is the police have not earned our trust, and you have not earned our trust. If you want our trust, then hold yourselves accountable. Hold the police accountable by ending qualified immunity. Hold police accountable by ending a war on drugs that sends far too many of our people who are suffering from addiction to jail instead of where they need to be healing themselves. If you want to be held, if you want trust from us, hold yourselves to account and hold the police to account. Because my entire life, I have seen the city of Atlanta make false promises that we're going to address these issues, that we're going to find new ways to address crime that doesn't just involve the barrel of a gun. But it seems that every time that there's a new solution, you ignore it and you go right back to the same old, well, we just need to train ourselves better. And that is a lie. There are already training facilities for every member of the Atlanta Police Department. If you want to make those a little bit better, if you want to improve upon those, good, but you don't need a clear-cut forest to make that happen. We are the greenest city in the country, and that's something that I am very, very proud of. And I say as a libertarian, we do not believe in the initiation of force for things, and you have put it upon us, that you're putting force upon each of our necks. Take the boot off of our neck, support freedom, and support the people of the city of Atlanta. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next will be Jax Crowder.
Hello, members of the council. My name is Jax. I use they, them pronouns, and I live in District 8, which Ms. Norwood is not here right now. I am a disabled veteran. I am a holistic wellness professional, a grassroots activist, a community service volunteer, and a queer person. All of these alone are labels. Ultimately, they are identifiers that would be used in the event that I am arrested or killed by the police. With my military service and upbringing, I have many friends and family who are law enforcement officers at all levels. Individually, they are wonderful humans. But ultimately, they are servants of the state, just as I was in my military career. The state is not for the people, but rather for their job security. Protect and serve has been pushed to try and turn the public for the police. But in reality, they protect and serve the state rather than the people. No matter how much of a bleeding heart the people behind the badge are, their uniform and chain of command makes them otherwise. I would like to bring special attention to the members of the council, Michael Julian Bond, Andrea Boone, Matt Westmoreland, Howard Shook, Marcy Collier Overstreet, and Dustin Harris for voting yes on this project after public comment vehemently opposed it. I would also like to recognize Councilperson Amir Faroqi for not being present for the vote, which is arguably just as bad as saying yes. For the remaining council, this is your chance to actually hear your constituents and vote no for funding this project. This training center, as you've heard, will continue to hear, this project is incredibly harmful for the environment, the community, and the city, and you are ignoring the outcries following the events of 2020 and on. My time's up. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim Harship. Sorry, Harslip.
Hayslip.
Hayslip, thank you.
Hi, my name is Kim Hayslip, and I'm from Gwinnett County. I came here to help the young people. I'm raising a child who is the same age as many of the students who are speaking today. And I feel just awful that we're building Cop City rather than spending money on helping out with homelessness, with helping out with mental health, or helping out with any other possible use for $33.5 million. Atlanta is supposed to be a city in the forest, and we're tearing down the forests and building police training centers. This is not what we should be doing with our money or our time, and I'm absolutely horrified with what we've been doing with this. Please vote no for Cop City and save the Atlanta forest.
Thank you. Next will be Jay Crawford.
I'd like to orient ourselves here for a moment. A climate activist named Tortuguita was murdered, shot by police over 57 times, defending indigenous stolen land, the Walani Forest, on January 18th. The city calls itself the City of Trees. I say the Walani Forest Council rescinds any proclamation or declaration that the city of Atlanta is the City of Trees, because you can't do one thing with one hand and say something else with the other. They don't go hand in hand. I'm Jay Crawford. I made it my business to be here today. I want to acknowledge Liliana Bakhtiari. She is a former comrade of mine in the Occupy Atlanta movement. The last time we were together was when we were comrades at Peachtree and Pine under the tutelage of Reverend Jesse Jackson, our headquarters. I am here to rally support of Atlanta musicians. I moved here in 1999 when they were leading the way, instrumental, inspiring us in social change, environmentalism. And I would like to call on the Indigo Girls, specifically Amy Ray, Emily Salyers, and please do more through Honor the Earth Foundation. Michael Stipe, let's begin again.
Time has expired. Thank you. I will call the next group of names. If you come down to the front, Kay Williams, Garciela Kane, Michael Dreyer, Sasha Friedman, Caitlin Brewster, Vic Kennedy, Bedden Green, and Fig White. First, we'll have Kay Williams.
This could all be so simple. Excuse my throat. But you'd rather make it hard. See, loving you is like a battle. I've been outside rallying. My name is Queen K. I'm a human rights activist. Atlanta does not need a cop sanctuary. I mean a cop city. The people of Atlanta and Georgia are due reparations for being mishandled, brutalized, and killed by the hands of their paid public servants, also known as the APD. $33 million should be used to house the homeless, since many of your local shelters, they misuse and illegally pocket their government and local funding. $33 million can be used to create an effective public police accountability task force made up of local activists and community members who are authorized and paid to police the police and to intervene when excessive force is used. $33 million must be used to ensure all cops here in Georgia are required to wear an active and working body camera at all times, that all cops use government-issued walkie-talkies to radio for backup and not their personal private cell phones, to call one of their partners for backup during any citizen interrogation and or traffic stop. That way the police department is aware of what is transpiring at all times. And finally, off-duty police officers should not be allowed to wear their police officer uniforms and threaten arrest or actually process an arrest while they're off duty. So no, Atlanta does not need a cop city. I'm going to briefly jump over here. Atlanta does not need a cop city or a sanctuary for the cops. Atlanta needs police accountability, police reform, and prison reform, because $33 million can renovate your current local jailhouse to avoid rodent bite death. God bless.
Thank you. Graciela Kane.
Peace. My name is Graciela, and I'm a Georgia State student who does not want Cop City. When I moved to Atlanta, I fell in love with the history of Black student activists that fought and demanded justice, education, and the right to protect our legacy. I'm an Afro-Latinx trans student who is angry to know that my institution is in direct relation to fund millions of dollars to Cop City. I'm here to ask my city council, along with my institution and my friends' institutions, to terminate the lease and stop funding Cop City. I also stand here to ask you some questions to sit with. How can we reimagine this money to support our city when thousands are experiencing homelessness or on the verge of experiencing homelessness due to the ongoing COVID pandemic? How can we address Atlanta's huge wage gap? How can we ensure that incarcerated people like LaShawn Thompson, who was eaten alive by maggots and bed bugs for days, are protected? And shutting down the jail and reallocate those funds to the people. Policing, mass incarceration, and curating fake towns are not ways to reimagine Atlanta. When I moved here, I also learned that Atlanta influences everything. And that's why our chants, art, our songs have traveled outside of Atlanta to California, to Canada, to Paris, to Palestine, and even Africa. The world knows that we don't need Cop City here or anywhere. All eyes are on Atlanta. What will you do to protect the earth? What legacy will you leave as city council people? We are all forest defenders, and we want you to join us. We want you to fight. We want you to protect the land, and we want you to center the people. Ashe.
Thank you. Next will be Michael Dreyer.
Good morning, and thank you all to the Atlantans who have come out today and speaking up or spoke up when y'all would rather all be doing something else. My name is Michael. I'm a District 7 resident. I say an unequivocal no to Cop City. I will also put on my former teacher hat and ask all cell phones down with the council members. I know it's a long time, but please listen to us. I had to take off work today. It sucks. I want to get paid. Please listen to us. Don't want to be here. I was one of the many callers who overwhelmingly opposed Cop City the first time you had to vote on its funding, and you then ignored us. If you want people to not camp in the woods, please listen to them when they go about protest the legal way. I mean, it's that simple. I don't know what to say. I do not believe the police are monsters. They are people just like us. They can do good. They can do immense harm. I hope for a society in which policing is used only in the direst of criminal emergencies. The U.S. leads the world in mass incarceration. If the U.S. police budget was a military, it would be the third largest in the world. The whole world. I lost my place, but I would love to believe that Cop City is planned to create a de-escalation training center, but instead I expect that it will train the police force in the militarized urban warfare tactics I witnessed being used firsthand so brutally in the aftermath of the death of George Floyd. If these corporations that donate 2/3 of the budget of Cop City care so much for the safety of the city, why do they not donate to the things proven to reduce crime globally? Infrastructure, well-built public housing that provides dignity for working-class Atlantans, public transport that provides reliable transportation, freeing middle and working class people from owning cars and insuring them, public health facilities, preventing the death of prisoners by bed bugs and solitary confinement, after-school programs, world-class public schools, tree cover, public parks, raising the wages of those public works employees we lauded earlier, if y'all recall. Additionally, I'd ask the council members to consider why do corporations hold such a role at all in funding the public police force that enforces the law. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next will be Sasha Friedman.
Good afternoon. My name is Sasha Friedman. I'm a resident of District 1, Councilmember Jason Winston, who I've run into getting coffee at Little Tart on Georgia Avenue. I also wanted to say hello to Councilmember Westmoreland, who I know is a lead Atlanta alumni. I'd also like to say hello to Councilmember Bakhtiari, who I've seen at several events within the queer community across Atlanta, and to Councilmember Dozier, who I went with door to door talking to people about how they deserve to have somebody who listened to them. I say this to remind you and to remind myself that outside of these four walls, we are neighbors. I think about the ways that I have done right by my neighbors, that I have shown up for them, and I think about the times when I've not even been able to look them in the eye because I know that I have not shown up in the way that they needed me to. And I think about something that I was told over 20 years ago by a teacher who said, there will come a time when you need to decide between what is right and what is easy. This morning, it would have been easier to stay at home and to hope that someone else would come and talk to you all. But that wouldn't have been something I could look at my neighbor and say, I did right by you and I showed up. This is not a question of facts and figures. It's clearly a question of how big the paychecks are coming in the pocketbooks coming into your offices rather than the voices of the people sitting in these halls. So I want to ask you, Councilmember Winston, will you be able to look in the eye of the people on our street when they see flooding down Atlanta Avenue because we have not taken care of the water in our neighborhood? Councilmember Westmoreland, will you be able to go to the next Trees Atlanta meeting and tell people that you have protected the tree canopy? Councilmember Bakhtiari, will you be able to go to the next event in our queer community knowing that queer liberation is tied in all of our liberation and say, I am part of this with you? And Councilmember Dozier, when you start knocking on doors again, will people know that you listen to them?
Time is up. Thank you. Next will be Caitlin Brewster.
Good afternoon or evening. I'm not sure what time it is, but To all of Atlanta City Council members, my name is Caitlin Brewster. I am president of DeKalb Young Democrats, and I also am a resident of unincorporated DeKalb. I wanted to let you know that I implore that you all halt against the Cop City project and reject the allocation of $33.5 million in public funds. Our community has already paid a heavy price with the loss of course, Torchiga. I hope I am pronouncing his name correctly. I'm pretty sure we all know about it, and a life should not be taken. And as a Black woman who is queer openly, and my community, marginalized communities, are often affected by these kind of issues as well. In all honesty, I just really hope that you guys really think about the effects. And then as public servants, as people who are in these offices right now, you obviously see that increasing funding for cops is not the way it's supposed to be. Where has it shown, in all honesty, that it has helped any marginalized groups in general? It hasn't. It has not helped us whatsoever. We are always being affected each and every time. And I got 30 seconds left, but I really hope that you think about what is morally right. And I want to see more of my legislators putting their title on the line, fighting for our rights. And all I have to say is stop Cop City, because this is a very, very deep thing to my heart. And I hope you guys understand how all of us are here today fighting for our rights, and more than y'all are in this entire thing right now.
Thank you. Next will be Vic Kennedy.
Hello. My name is Vic, and I'm a resident of Northeast Atlanta, specifically DeKalb County. I'm here to voice my opposition to the construction of what you are calling Atlanta Public Safety Training Center. More accurately, we have been calling this Cop City. The proposed plan allocates tens of millions of taxpayer dollars to a facility that will disrupt the lives of Black Atlantans living in the southeastern portion of the perimeter, as well as clearing parts of the Weelaunee Forest that house irreplaceable wildlife and protect the city of Atlanta from flooding that would occur across the city otherwise. As a resident and taxpayer in Atlanta, as well as a friend of many of those who have been brutalized by the militarized police in Atlanta, I am here to emphasize that the city of Atlanta does not want or need Cop City, and that the millions that are currently on the table to be used for this facility would be better used to help Atlantans, especially Black Atlantans, in more productive ways, such as the decriminalization of poverty in our areas. This can be done through housing reform, rent control, infrastructural improvements, and the expansion of services used often by poorer Atlantans, such as MARTA. There is a constant narrative regarding this movement that has bled into mainstream media that insists that those who oppose Cop City are outside agitators that are completely unfamiliar with the city of Atlanta and simply want to cause discord within the city. I know you all know that this is simply false. The residents of Atlanta do not want Cop City, not now, not a smaller version of Cop City. We want it dismantled, and we do not want it built. Excuse me, I've been here for 4 hours. Oh, I got some time. I'm speaking both as a previous student of Atlanta schools, but also as a previous educator. There is no study that shows that this would lower crime, nor do your constituents want this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next would be Bedlin Green. My apologies. I don't think I got that right.
No, you did. It's Bedlin Green. Good afternoon, Council. My name is Bedlin Green. I'm an Atlanta resident of the Piedmont and Midtown area. I also attend the Savannah College of Art and Design in the Midtown area. Living in the Midtown area, the local shootings in the area were a major shock to everyone. But a bomb threat at the SCAD Atlanta campus hit much closer to home. Although those events took place within the span of a few weeks, our conversations as students were filled with dread, and we found ways of trying to drown it out. The constant threat felt ever present, but the response has felt even more unsettling from the police. Every corner store, every gas station in Midtown has someone with a gun at the ready. Police presence in bars in the city certainly didn't help drown out the gnawing dread at the back of my mind. As a Black man, To me, this presence doesn't invite safety or ease of mind. Although the strain of recent events have left students paralyzed, we haven't felt more unsafe than when our lives are treated like packages to be guarded, rather than the delicate lives that need to be preserved. What will Cop City do, and what will it show me that I haven't already seen? There's already a strong presence here. There's nothing that they could do that I haven't already been seeing. And I urge you to stop.
Thank you. Next will be Fig White.
Hi, my name's Fig. I just wanted to pause and just give a moment to honor the lives of these people who have died tragically and violently at the hands of police. Jimmy Atkinson, Matthew Zadok Williams, Jamarion Robinson, Manuel Turan, and LaShawn Thompson all died at the hands of police just in the Atlanta and DeKalb County area. It was just completely unnecessary and tragic for the entire community, but especially their families. I would like to see the $33.5 million go to anything but this Cop City. I think that, at least in the case of Matthew Zadok Williams, it was entirely preventable if they had followed the proper police protocol. Sergeant Perry, the man who killed Matthew Zadok Williams, had all the training, so training is proven to not work in reforming the police. We need them to send social workers to the scene. Mental health professionals need to arrive without guns to de-escalate the situation, as opposed to just kicking the door down, shooting this unarmed man in his home. I would like to see the money go to the Grocery Spot, which is a grocery store that offers free food for any Atlantan who shows up, and it's relying completely off donations. I would like it to go to Housing Justice League to pass their right to counsel for all City of Atlantans. Right now, it has been passed by City Council, and we're so excited, but it's not receiving enough funding to reach the entire City of Atlanta. I think that we need enforcement of tenant laws in Atlanta, because right now you can call code enforcement, but they're not going to help you. You can't call the police, they're the ones doing the evictions. We need people to represent poor people in Atlanta, specifically Black poor people who are being affected by police, who are being affected by poverty the worst in this city, and it's really a shame for the City of Atlanta. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call the next group. Let me just comment and say I appreciate everybody working together to both stick to time and also keep us moving. Thank you. There are many people on the list. I'm going to actually call out the numbers I'm on, because the folks outside, it'll be easier for them to know where we are. Some of them have the list as well. Allie Gilbert, we're going to be 38 through 46. Allie Gilbert, Letzer Zari, Andrew Free, Perel Ramirez, Arena Zalakutina, Jacqueline Eccles, Don Began, and Elena Nagin. If you could come forward, come down to the front so you're ready to go. And first will be Allie Gilbert, whenever Allie is ready.
Hello.
Thank you.
My name is Allie Gilbert. I live in unincorporated DeKalb. I'm speaking mainly to my people outside who I know are listening. It is hard to stay engaged. It is hard not to go numb at the constant onslaught of disrespect and hatred. Numbness leads to apathy, and apathy leads to lack of action. Choosing to abstain from politics, from voting, from society is not a viable option, and it is certainly not a neutral one. These peoples around Cop City, these people's lives and existences are constantly in dispute. And Cop City is just adding to that dispute. The police have shown us that they do not protect and serve. If you vote yes, you are voting to kill. You are voting in favor of violence against minorities. The police don't need more funding. They need accountability. Some final words from John Stuart Mill, 1867. Bad men need nothing more to compass their ends than that good men should look on and do nothing. We will persist. I yield, Mr. President.
Thank you. Letzer Zari is next.
Hi, Mr. Council President. Can I yield my time to another community member who is...
Unfortunately, no. We have to go by the sheet.
Okay. I can then speak on my behalf. So, I'm Lester John. I'm a resident of the Atlanta city. And I want to say swiftly about two things. So, the burdens of public debt and then the burden of over-policing. So, first about money. So, either through municipal bond or city trust or revenues, the burden of this corporate project will be borne by all people, with the marginalized communities paying the highest, disproportionate price. And moreover, the burden of over-policing will not be equally shared, and its perceived benefit, if there's any, will not equally be distributed. We all know that Cop City will never be built in Buckhead, and if Buckhead was its own city, it gets its own city now. Or in communities where the privileged access to social services are never cut off or curtailed, and where the perceived notion of public safety is used as a law and order rallying cry to exclude the alleged poor, threatening, and undeserving. Therefore, I urge you to reconsider the use of such funds, the use of such policing tactics and public debt, and to redirect the public money for the real and true public good, such as unemployment benefits, affordable housing, refugee assistance, child mental care programs, and so much more, so many more. Do not let special interests and the logic of punishment and retribution run over the justice like black water or righteousness like a polluted stream. And then let the city of Atlanta rise to its promise where the fruit of prosperity is shared by all people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Andrew Free.
Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'm a resident of Atlanta's District 5, and I'm here mostly for my child who danced in the forest with the children of indigenous folks whose ancestors were removed from that forest under the doctrine of discovery, which the Catholic Church 500 years later has repudiated. They said it's not too late to go back on a racist, terrible decision that destroys life. I'd encourage you all to think about the same thing here today. I just want to stop and ask, why are we here? Is it about 33 million? No, you already approved 30. We're here because your bylaws require you to approve a budget increase of 10% or more, so $3.5 million. We're here because the Atlanta Police Foundation couldn't find $3.5 million. Huh. And so you have to approve this project and up the budget. But it's not in doubt. They know what you're going to do. They put you here to approve it. Because they already cut down the trees. Those trees are gone. They know that you're going to approve it. You have to understand, we see this, okay? And when we come and talk to you and you ignore us, because we're not at the Cherokee Town and Country Club in Q3, making up the plans for what y'all are gonna vote on, right? Then they repress us in the streets. I believe that there is a beautiful child inside each of you. Happy birthday, Councilman Shipman. I think the only thing we could ask for is your silence because you did so much of it when Tord died. Happy birthday, Councilman Hillis. All right, we want you in our community. We are part of your community. We are interdependent. We are interrelated. Okay? We are interdependent and interrelated. And we are coming to you from a place of love. We are saying, please don't destroy this forest. There's better things to do with $3.5 million more dollars, with $30 million. Okay? There's life-giving alternatives. We ask you, honor those life-giving alternatives.
Thank you. Next is Perel Ramirez. Burrell Ramirez. Next is Irina Zolokatina.
Hello, my name is Irina Zolotukina, and I am a resident of Old Fourth Ward in District 2. I am here to voice my opposition to the funding of Cop City. This facility is not going to prevent or solve crime in our city, and it's misleading to say otherwise. This just seems like, honestly, just a really bad idea that's deeply rooted in corruption. The implications from an environmental perspective, and especially a social justice perspective, are devastating. This money should be used towards efforts that support voter rights, public health, education, affordable housing, instead of a military-style police facility that will undoubtedly only harm the community in which it's being built. As City Council members, you have a duty to serve the communities you represent. Today you have an opportunity, an obligation really, to listen to your constituents and to vote no on this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Jacqueline Eccles. Due to yielded time, you'll have up to 10 minutes.
Council members, many of you whom I know, and some of you who I don't. I am board president of South River Watershed Alliance, a position I've held for 12 years. I worked on environmental issues affecting the South River Watershed for 25 years. Environmental racism is race-based discrimination in environmental policymaking, enforcement of regulation and laws, and targeting communities of color for the siting of toxic and polluting industries resulting in disproportionate harm. In urban areas, people do not exist separately from their environment. The two are inextricably linked. As the environment goes, so goes the community. It is the responsibility of local government to ensure equity and fairness for the most vulnerable and marginalized citizens and communities. In Atlanta, those faces are Black. Local government invests in communities primarily through parks and green space because these amenities contribute to health and wellness, wealth, and quality of life. There are 0 examples that support the peaceful and healthy coexistence of a mammoth 171-acre police training facility in any neighborhood anywhere. The Atlanta Police Training Facility, also known as Cop City, would not be proposed anywhere else in Atlanta, and is only being proposed in Southeast Atlanta because of the color of the residents who live there and are least able to fight back. This is environmental racism at its worst. Even more appalling, a Black mayor and a predominantly Black city council are supporting and promoting this injustice. Cop City is not about training Atlanta's police, but securing the financial future of the Atlanta Police Foundation through worldwide marketing of militarized police training. There are training options that will not disrupt lives and pollute the environment of residents 365 days a year. The city is keeping its Chattahoochee River Park promise to citizens of predominantly white and wealthy Northwest Atlanta, as adopted in aspiring to the beloved community. Need I remind you that the same promise of South River Park was made to citizens living in South and Southeast Atlanta. Keep your promise and say no to environmental racism. I also want to read to you an excerpt by Micah Herskin, I think, who wrote an article about the Atlanta Way. The struggle to stop Cop City is a battle for the future of Atlanta. It's a struggle over who the city is for. The city's corporate and state ruling class actors who have demanded that Cop City be built, or the people of Atlanta who consistently voice their opposition and demand a different vision for the city. It is a fight over who the city belongs to, over who Atlanta is run for and who it's run against, over who is welcome to live and enjoy life here, and who is expected to simply labor here for low wages and under constant surveillance. This is an issue of environmental injustice. This is an issue of environmental racism in Atlanta. And I urge you to think hard and long before you go down that path of solidifying this whole notion of a facility that is not necessary, that will not benefit the city of Atlanta, and will be detrimental to the citizens who have elected you to stand with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Don Deegan.
Before you start the timer, can you please clarify that nowhere in your notes my time was yielded to Marcus Coleman?
No, I have you listed at 44 with your name, not anybody beside it.
At the window later, we were told that the notes would be put in that my time was properly yielded to him when he signed up.
Oh, I see you. I got you. Yes, your time has been yielded.
Thank you.
Next is Eliana Nagin.
My last name is actually pronounced Nogan.
Nogan, thank you.
No problem. Okay. All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, and to all those who came out today. My name is Eliana Nogan, and I have been a Georgia resident for all my 20 years of living, and for the last 2 years, I have lived downtown in Atlanta while attending Georgia State University. I wanted to begin by also stating that I'm very grateful for the opportunity for all of us for having the opportunity to speak to you all about how we feel and our disdain towards the Atlanta Public Safety Center, aka Cop City. My hope is that throughout this time today, you remain open-hearted and stay listening to the people. After all, you all hold the power to either destroy one of the biggest and oldest forests in America during a climate crisis, or heed our words and choose to reallocate the money raised towards public programs to support our struggling community and restitution for the city, which is facing an extreme homelessness epidemic and infrastructure issues, amongst other things. During my time downtown, I have been firsthand witness to the homelessness epidemic and watching the city I love begin to crumble. I love Atlanta and I wish to see her thrive, and I ask you guys one more time to please turn down this legislation and defund Cop City. I urge you to really think about the power you hold and the consequences will be with the lack of your action, despite the relentless amount of people who keep speaking out against Cop City. Really think about what side of history you truly want to be on, and what legacy do you wish to leave behind. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. So I will be calling another set of folks, 47 through 60, Abrima Mbowe, Matthew Johnson, Shaquille A., Kiana Jones, Amy Taylor, Sarah McClintock, and Eric Bulakitos. Go ahead.
I do want to clarify that my name is pronounced Ibrahim Mbo.
Thank you.
I want to thank you all for inviting me to the Atlanta Comedy Club, because honestly, clearly to me, it seems that the Atlanta City Council is no longer an appropriate name for this legislative body. Because how can you come here and bring a civil rights leader and the Workers Foundation in an attempt to foolishly appease us, thinking that we won't see through this obvious and clear shucking and jiving that you are doing for us? We look to you and we voted for you in these positions to represent us and bring us to a position where we could hope that new people could come in to the Atlanta city and see that we are bringing culture, music, and love throughout the entire country through our influence. However, the influence that you are giving us instead is the influence of violence and repression through the state power of the police district. Now understand that the police do not serve the people, they serve corporations. Because if they truly serve the people, why would you need approval from us for $30 million when the $30 million have already been allocated to you from the corporations? Now that's very strange because I don't remember voting for those corporations to give them $30 million. Did I vote with my wallet? Oh, weird. Every time I come into the grocery store and get a pack of Apple Jacks, I don't expect them to pay the police to come and shoot me when I walk down the road. But in either case, understand that we will no longer sit idly by while you continue to pretend to care about democracy. Democracy is a lie that you have imposed upon us by saying, no, we care about your voice. We'll care about my voice right now, and I'll say to you, we do not want Cop City. You have seen 40 other people come to you and say we don't want Cop City, and you will see 1,000 more come to you and say we don't want Cop City. How many of those thousands are you going to choose to ignore? If every dollar is a vote, understand that I am worth $1 million because every life is worth $1 million.
Thank you. Next will be Matthew Johnson. Due to yielded time, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you for the time and the time obviously invested in me. Since I have a little bit more spare time than I usually do, I would like to tell a couple of stories. I think that those stories will make readily clear that policing as it is formed in the United States does not serve our interests, does not keep us safe, and damn sure isn't cost efficient. Then I will go on to explain to you why advisory councils won't do anything through these same stories somehow. And then I'll get back more into the meat of the issues that we're having with policing in America. And I'll start with this. Georgia incarcerates more of its citizens, a higher proportion of its citizens than any democracy on the face of the earth. If any person across this platform can look at me in the eyes and tell me that they believe that Georgians are just eviler than every other democracy on the face of the earth, I'll shut up now. But that must have something to do with who's setting policy if we're not willing to say that these aren't the worst people you've ever met. My first story starts with an APD officer named Saralyn Davis, who was the head of the Red Dog unit right here in Atlanta. So she was fired from her job because it seems as if she was covering up for a sergeant's spouse that was caught with child pornography. Now, it was a citizen's review that gave her that job back after this same man was found to actually plead guilty to the child pornography charges. So she got her job back. Then she was hired as chief of police in Durham. Then she was hired as chief of police in Memphis, where she still serves now. Now this same person who was the head of the Red Dog unit who was disbanded in 2012 for its brutal tactics, that's what she got promoted for, okay? She got promoted because she held the line and didn't snitch on another police officer, so she got her job back. And the reason why she got promoted was because of her aggressive policing. So you can't really convince me that this is just some happenstance that somebody protesting gets shot in the forest 57 times. They just told you what they plan on doing with the training center if you give them more militarized equipment to do it, and they were willing to do it just to get the center. 57 shots, nobody said anything on this entire platform. Shot so many times, there's holy stigmata in his hands, and you all have nothing to say about it. There's been a lot of silence. The best we could do with Garrett Rolfe that shot Rayshard Brooks was give him back pay, and he's still on administrative leave last time I checked. We gave him a paid vacation for murdering a black man. There you see students that we all saw on camera get beaten up and yanked out of their cars by police. They got reinstated. Not a mumbling word. However, we have 42 people that were arrested for domestic terrorism, and you can't show me one police with a bruise that wasn't caused by another police officer. Here we are now. Shit, y'all got me a little nervous. Because despite having no evidence, just less than 2 weeks ago, there was a defendant that was arrested right here in this city of Atlanta because they happened to be in the proximity of a protest and be in possession of black clothes, which apparently was enough for them to be indicted for arson. Now, the other evidence that they gave were that this person was reimbursed for supplies at a welcome table for a week of action. So buying paint supplies, staplers, and I guess anything else that one might use can make you more, is essentially enough for an indictment. This is a sham of justice, and we're all tolerating it. And now if that's all it takes, some of us might go to jail for this, but some of y'all might go to hell for this. So I have another story. In 2020, there was a use of force advisory council. And they went through all of this deliberation, and they were trying to figure out why it is that these police make all of these unnecessary arrests that increase these issues and people fighting back, etc. And so what they recommended was that the police get rid of the quota system that seems to incentivize police for making more arrests. Do you know who was the person that was charged with publicly supporting the quota system before he was chief? If that gives you any hint, Deputy Chief Shearbaum. Then he was promoted after he held the line in May of 2022 after there had been continued outcry to get rid of this incentive system. Let me tell you one of the issues with the incentive system. So for service calls, where people actually call police to be there, you get a quarter point for showing up when somebody wants you there. You get 20 times that much credit for arresting a child. Juvenile arrests are 5 points on this system. You ask a cop to come to your house, they'll probably skip the call to go arrest a kid that they see messing around on the side of the street because they're incentivized to do that. That's how deeply broken this system is. And if the only solution that you have for it is money, 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 it's going to get worse because they are more resourced to do bad. We all deserve better at this point. And maybe causation, maybe correlation, God knows. But I have spoken here with Reverend Kiana Jones on 2 occasions. One of them was in March, and then all of a sudden, 4 days later, the concerned black clergy of Atlanta decided that they would show up and show out and actually become active and concerned. Now, I think that it's important to highlight that one of these folks that are a part of the concerned black clergy, named Gerald Durley, is also on the advisory council for the public training facility. Okay, I'll give it to you. He received $10,000 from the city for his 80th birthday alone. Being an old minister does not mean that you are self-sacrificial like Martin Luther King Jr. And it was the old folks that killed Jesus in his mid-30s, so it's not as impressive to be an old minister as you might think. But we got a lot of questions. Now, the second time that we spoke at City Council together, 2 days later, Mayor Andre Dickens amassed about 50 black men, markedly no white people, that showed how much support he had throughout the community for Cop City. With the type of scarcity that we will deal with, you will never have a short supply of oppressed people that are willing to sell out other oppressed people to get theirs. And no matter how many black men the mayor has standing behind him at a press conference, we know that they don't own even 1% of the majority companies that have been funding Cop City. You can have as many black people behind you as you want, but we know that the money has all been white from the very beginning, as all capital is in this country. For every $1 for the average black household in Atlanta, the black Mecca, $3 for the average median income for white households. Fix that. Instead of pumping more money into police housing in our neighborhoods where they get a $500 a month stipend for reporting neighborhood activity, fund the houses of the people you're pushing out. That's what you can do with $33 million.
Thank you. Next will be... Guys, we've done such a good job to now. Let's keep it going, please. So there are a handful of folks who signed up and tried to offer their time to someone else, but the person who they tried to offer their time to didn't sign up on the list. So I'm going to offer those people their original 2 minutes if they'd like to have it. So Shaquille A., if you'd like your 2 minutes, you're welcome to have it.
Hello, I'm a student organizer in the Stop Cop City movement and current student at Georgia Tech. I'm also a native of Metro Atlanta and currently reside 10 minutes from where the lungs of Atlanta are being removed. I have been involved in activism since middle school when I felt it necessary to express my concern of U.S. policing and the police state. Unfortunately, I am still fighting the same fight I have been since I was 9 years old. And the Cop City project in Atlanta would further expand the police state. I would like to live in a city that prioritizes providing the basic necessities for every human being instead of continuing to fund an ever-expanding police state. I would like to live in a city that planted more trees and provided more mitigation efforts against the impending climate catastrophe, rather than continuing to back corporations that cause it. As a Georgia Tech student, I also understand my place in all of this. Going to a school that has historically displaced Black and brown people and that continue to deny them space today, it is my responsibility to stand up against a project that will continue to disenfranchise the most deserving in Atlanta. Finally, I would like to remind the mayor, a graduate of Georgia Tech, that the year of the youth is now, and we will defend the Weelaunee Forest and the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Kiana Jones. Due to yielded time, you'll have up to 10 minutes.
Everybody, my name is Reverend Kiana Jones, and I stand here on behalf of the Faith Coalition to Stop Cop City, community movement builders, and this entire beloved community that has shown up to tell y'all we keep saying the same thing. Could you listen perhaps today? So I start off with a letter from the Clergy Coalition, since y'all love to hear preachers get together and talk about what they want to do for the city and what it should be done. To Mayor Andre Dickens, DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurman, and members of the Atlanta City Council. The Faith Coalition to Stop Cop City and Defend Weelaunee Forest, a multi-faith, multi-racial coalition of religious leaders and faith leaders, remains opposed to the City of Atlanta's illegal deforestation of Weelaunee Peoples Park, also known as Entrenchment Creek Park, to construct an urban warfare training facility known as the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center, but as we call it, Cop City. This failed attempt at public safety, made at the behest of the private and corporately run Atlanta Police Foundation, threatens the preservation of the Weelaunee River and its surrounding watershed and forest.
The 3,500-acre span of urban forest within Weelaunee Peoples Park is home to a diverse ecosystem of plants, animals, and humans. These lands have been home to the Muskogee Creek people since time immemorial, the nexus of their ceremonies, language, and their ways of life. Through violence and greed, these lands have been subjected to centuries of abuse. From the forced removal of indigenous communities to serving as a plantation for African slave labor, to the site of the old Atlanta prison farm in the 20th century that produced immense profit for the prison system. Today, the sounds of bird song from the forest canopy are drowned out by the sound of gunfire from the adjacent APD firing range. We remain indignant by the City of Atlanta's commodification of community land, water, and air on which we all depend. We remain heartbroken by the state-sanctioned police murder of Manuel Esteban Paez Terán, also known as Tortuguita, on January 18, 2023. We are dumbfounded by the lack of communication, transparency, and accountability from the law enforcement agencies involved in Tortuguita's murder. To date, his family has received no apology, no explanation, no evidence, and no report with details surrounding the murder. In fact, quite the opposite. Multiple news outlets have reported overwhelming evidence of a cover-up by the Atlanta Police Department, DeKalb County Police, DeKalb County Medical Examiner's Office, Georgia State Patrol, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. We are appalled that charges have not been brought forth against those responsible for the murder of Tortuguita. This cannot stand, and we, along with Tortuguita's family, will not rest until justice is served. Furthermore, we remain appalled by the unlawful and immoral use of military tactics, escalated legal charges on members of our community who currently face unprecedented domestic terrorism charges for expressing their First Amendment rights. This is nothing less than an attempt to suppress legitimate resistance to Cop City, while simultaneously clear-cutting the Weelaunee forest trees and making it illegal to enter a public park, despite not having the appropriate permits for you to do so. Our lands and people have suffered violence for too long. Too much harm has already been done. Enough. We will not be silenced. We will not let your actions go without accountability. We declare with courage and commitment that Cop City will never be built. To amend the violence that has already been done to Tortuguita, their family, the Weelaunee Forest, and citizens of Atlanta and DeKalb County, we raise our voices in moral conscience and prophetic witness in calling for a complete stop to the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center, known as Cop City, the cancellation of the Atlanta Police Foundation's lease, the immediate release of all activists and protesters currently being detained and denied bond, the dropping of all domestic terrorism charges against activists and protesters, an independent investigation into the unprecedented use of domestic terrorism charges against protesters which are unjustified and serve only to stoke fear among activists, community leaders, and organizers in good faith for the well-beings of their communities. The arrest and charging of all law enforcement agents involved in the murder and subsequent cover-up of Tortuguita. The rescinding of explicit and or tacit support for Cop City by all current and former elected officials who have failed to heed the voice of their constituents. And we do mean you, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, current Mayor Andre Sellout Dickens, previous council members Cleta Winslow, J.P. Mazikite, Joyce Shepard, and current council members Antonio Lewis, Julian Bond, Keisha Shawn Waits, Dustin Hillis, Matt Westmoreland, Andrea Boone, Jason Dozier, Amir Faroki, Marcy Collier Overstreet, Howard Shook, Liliana Bakhtiari, and Jason Winston. Finally, we demand a community process to continue envisioning how Weelaunee River and Forest can be a part of the heart and lungs of this community in our wellness and well-being and healing. This process must center the voices and needs of the Muskogee leaders and community members, incarcerated people in the surrounding prisons and their families, neighbors, and those who live in close proximity to the firing range and who are under the police surveillance throughout their community. Community leaders and organizations fighting for holistic community safety must be included. And we demand clean water, tree canopies, and a future for all. Let us be clear. We will not succumb to evil nor systems or policies that bring harm and destruction to our communities or our planet. We will continue to work as the Faith Coalition to Stop Cop City with justice and love until the day we can all live in peace as the beloved community that our faith proclaims that is not only possible, but it is inevitable. Now, a statement from our sister, the daughter of Bishop Desmond Tutu, Natumbi Tutu. I want to echo the sentiments of our community members and say, stop Cop City. I urge the City Council to do the right thing and vote down this funding. I am a recent transplant to Atlanta and have already seen the many needs that exist in our community. The Atlanta Police Training Center is not what our community needs. We need more health care, investment in our schools, better access to affordable and healthy food choices. Our young people are standing up, and I'm proud to stand with them. My father, Bishop Desmond Tutu, taught us to do our bit of good wherever we are. I see this as a part of my little bit of good in my new home of Atlanta. As the daughter of Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu and as a civil rights activist myself, I have to speak out against funding the Atlanta Police Training Center what it would do to the Black and brown communities that it is proposed to be built in. And for myself, on behalf of Reverend Kiana Michelle Jones, who is the granddaughter of Mary Kate Thomas from East Atlanta, who still lives there, I want to say first thank you to Council Members Bakhtiari and Dozier for calling for an independent investigation into the death of Tortuguita. Because while some of you are reticent and scared to speak for anything, you know the old saying that if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. But what I know about y'all is that y'all ain't fell for nothing. You know exactly what it is that you're doing. For some reason, you think that these people ain't got no power. But I do believe that when we showed up today, we showed you what the power of the people is like. Matt just said it before me, that some of us might go to jail, but some of y'all might go to hell. And I got to tell you, that is one of my granny's favorite sayings, jail or hell, take your pick, but you gonna go to one of them today. So today is when you gonna make your choice where it is that you go. And I understand that I can't wax eloquent like so many other people, and I'm glad that I ain't got to, because I got a whole community behind me that will do that for me. I'm empowered to stand up here and stand flat-footed and speak from the heart and let you all know that every one of you has an expiration date in that seat that you're sitting in. And while some of you might have just been elected and it will be a while before we can unseat you, please do not deny or doubt the power of these people to make you unask that seat. Because I'm telling you right now that those seats and everything in this building belong to the people who you continue to deny, the people who you continue to believe that you don't have to listen to. But I'm going to tell you right now that you might not want to listen, and your vote here might reflect something different, but something is going to make you pay attention, because I'm going to see you out here in these streets. Somebody else is going to see you out here in these streets, and I want to have a conversation with you then, because we can talk all day in here. You may not respond, but when I catch you outside, Antonio Lewis, you know I got to catch you outside, because you and I have to have a talk. We have to talk as friends, as neighbors, as people, right? Because you and I had something before this ever started. So we will talk, and I will appreciate that talk. But for the rest of y'all, when I see you, don't run away from me.
Thank you. I will allow Councilmember Lewis, if you'd like to respond. I would ask, just because we have so many folks, to make it brief.
And you know, we can go outside right now and talk. But literally, we can literally walk outside right now and talk. Because I'm at, everybody know where I'm at the barbershop on Cleveland Avenue every Monday at 9 a.m. Pull up. You can come into the barbershop and talk, because there's a lot of folks there too. So we can go outside right now and talk, because
thank you.
And if anybody wants the letter from the clergy, I'll leave it here.
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll take that.
There's copies for every council.
Next is Amy Taylor.
And get a haircut when y'all come too. We make money in there too.
Duty.
30 Cleveland Avenue. 30 Cleveland Avenue. We ain't nervous over there. We pull up.
Thank you. Amy Taylor, you'll have
I have 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Thank you. It's Amy Taylor's time, 4 minutes.
I am Amy Taylor. I live on Key Road. In unincorporated DeKalb,